Register to win Life on Purpose online course. Thank you for downloading this special edition of Spiral of Fulfillment during our Kindle giveaway days running from March 8th to 12th, 2014. Be sure to share our giveaway with your family and friends. By the way, Life on Purpose, 6 Passages to an Inspired Life, an award-winning finalist in the Self-Help, Motivational Division of the Best Books Awards, is available on these same dates at a special discount price. Why not pick up a copy of it as well at http://www.amzn.com/B009ABMG9I. Join us also for our Life on Purpose contest, during which 100 people will win full and free access to the Life on Purpose online course, $149 value. The course will guide you step by step through the 6 passages that make up the Life on Purpose process, leading you to a focused, fulfilling and fun life on purpose. Be one of the first 100 people to register to win at http://www.lifeonpurpose.com/contest. As one student of the course wrote, as I recapitulate my year writing the moments, events and people that I had the blessing of experiencing, I have to say that I cannot end the year without expressing once again the impact the Life on Purpose course had in my life. This process was a defining moment for me, and I can confidently declare that I am living each day expressing the best version of myself, because I live on purpose, and when the waters get choppy, I have the tools to sail through them. Irma from Puerto Rico. Register for the contest at http://www.lifeonpurpose.com/contest. Let's create a world on purpose together. If you find Spiral of Fulfillment enhances your life, please share this with your family and friends, including through Facebook and Twitter. Use on purpose. We also enjoy hearing about your journey. Email us at lifeonpurposeinstitute@admin@lifeonpurpose.com, or go to our website at www.lifeonpurpose.com, where you can leave us a message. You can also help create a world on purpose by reviewing the book at http://www.amzn.com/B005GOJKB. Spiral of Fulfillment is a must-read, a remarkably authentic approach to unearthing the power and purpose of who we really are. It's the simplicity and serenity that gave me pause to think that oftentimes we need to slow down to speed up. Kathleen P. Frank, President Augur Incorporated, author of Breakdancing on a Balance Beam, How to Find Balance as a Business Person and in Everything Else That You Are to Person. Amazingly insightful and profoundly actionable. This book is a smash hit for living a fulfilled life on purpose, containing the key secrets: service, simplicity, and spiritual serenity, to transcend lack, fear, and limitation, and journey on the path of prosperity and abundance. Nick Finigworth, Creative Wealth Building. As we are seeing more meaning and simplicity in our lives, Brad offers a clear path to identifying and manifesting the life of your dreams. Charlotte McGinnis, author, A Golf Course in Miracles. His book makes simplifying your life and finding your life purpose and passion a no-brainer. Brad Swift shows you, very specifically, how to live a fulfilled life, while helping others fulfill theirs. If you've been trying to simplify your life and are looking for help, since simplicity is anything but simple, read this book. Madeline Kay, author of Living Serendipitously. This seems to be the law of progress in everything we do. It moves along a spiral rather than a perpendicular. We seem to be actually going out of the way, and yet it turns out that we were really moving upward all the time. Francis E. Willard. Dedication. I dedicate this book to everyone past, present and future who have chosen or will choose to enhance the quality of their lives through the Life on Purpose process and perspective. I dedicate this book to creating a world on purpose. Acknowledgements. I want to acknowledge 2 lovely ladies, my wife, Anne, and my daughter, Amber, who give my life so much meaning and purpose. I also acknowledge the divine who is at the source of it all. Thank you for my blessed life of service, simplicity and spiritual serenity. Special edition of Spiral of Fulfillment. Register to win Life on Purpose online course. Thank you for downloading this special edition of Spiral of Fulfillment during our Kindle giveaway days running from March 8th to 12th, 2014. Be sure to share our giveaway with your family and friends. By the way, Life on Purpose, 6 Passages to an Inspired Life, an award-winning finalist in the Self-Help, Motivational Division of the Best Books Awards, is available on these same dates at a special discount price. Why not pick up a copy of it as well at http://www.amzn.com/bo09abmg9i. Join us also for our Life on Purpose contest, during which 100 people will win full and free access to the Life on Purpose online course, $149 value. The course will guide you step by step through the 6 passages that make up the Life on Purpose process, leading you to a focused, fulfilling and fun life on purpose. Be one of the first 100 people to register to win at http://www.lifeonpurpose.com/contest. As one student of the course wrote, as I recapitulate my year writing the moments, events and people that I had the blessing of experiencing, I have to say that I cannot end the year without expressing once again the impact the Life on Purpose virtual video coach had in my life. This process was a defining moment for me, and I can confidently declare that I am living each day expressing the best version of myself, because I live on purpose, and when the waters get choppy, I have the tools to sail through them. Irma from Puerto Rico. Register for the contest and the Google Hangout at http://www.lifeonpurpose.com/contest. Let's create a world on purpose together. If you find Spiral of Fulfillment enhances your life, please share this with your family and friends, including through Facebook and Twitter. Use on purpose. We also enjoy hearing about your journey. Email us at lifeonpurposeinstitute@admin@lifeonpurpose.com, or go to our website at www.lifeonpurpose.com, where you can leave us a message. You can also help create a world on purpose by reviewing the book at http://www.amzn.com/bo05gojkb. Imagine for a moment living a completely satisfying and fulfilling life. Your work is a wonderfully rich expression of your purpose and passion. You have ample time to engage in worthwhile endeavors with your family and friends in engaging, and you are deeply involved in your community. In this fulfilled life, you fully experience the interconnected relationship of yourself with the rest of the universe, and you take full responsibility for your role in it. If you find such a life difficult to imagine, read on as we explore the facets of life that make up the Spiral of Fulfillment. As you read, know that such a life is not only possible, it is your birthright. From Project Purpose, a seed was planted. Several years ago, I created a pet writing project known as Project Purpose. The goal of my project is to write and publish articles about people and institutions whose lives and missions are dedicated to a bold and inspired purpose or vision. I created this project for 2 main reasons. First, I want to bring more purpose and meaning to my profession as a freelance writer, and second, I want to inspire other people to live a more satisfying and fulfilling life for themselves through service to others. It was my hope that people would read one of my Project Purpose profiles and then say to themselves, if that person can make a difference in the world, certainly I can do something for others as well. Purposeful online resources. If you like to read some of these inspiring stories and profiles about purposeful people, to www.lifeonpurpose.com/projectpurpose. Over the next few years, as I interviewed dozens of people living purposeful lives, I began to notice some common elements shared by most of the people I interviewed. These elements resonated deeply with my own soul and my own experience of life. They eventually became the core ingredients of my own life purpose. These core elements are service, simplicity, spiritual serenity. In other words, the people I interviewed were all clear about their life purpose and were expressing their purpose through service to others. They led lives of purposeful, passionate, and playful service. That wasn't all. These ordinary people who were leading extraordinary lives maintained much simpler lives than most, partly because they knew who they were and why they were on the planet. They lived lives of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity. The third common characteristic these people shared was a profound and inspiring spiritual life. Some were quite vocal about their relationship with God, while others were quiet and subdued. Some talked about their relationship with a higher power, or the universe. Some referred more to their spiritual nature or spirituality, but it was present in almost every case. From these observations evolved the Spiral of Fulfillment model, the essence of which is captured in the saying, "A life on purpose is a life of service, simplicity, and spiritual serenity." Turbulent times. I think most people will agree that we are living in turbulent times. Some might even say that our world is going to hell in a handbasket. One way to view the cause of these turbulent times is to realize that on a cultural and societal level, we are out of alignment with the universal flow of life. Let's face it, We live in an amazingly complex universe, one so complex that we'll never be able to fully comprehend it or fully appreciate its intricate design. As Einstein once said, we are in the position of a little child entering a huge library filled with books in many different languages. The child knows someone must have written those books. It does not know how. It does not understand the languages in which they are written. The child dimly suspects a mysterious order in the arrangement of the books but doesn't know what it is. That, it seems to me, is the attitude of even the most intelligent human being toward God. We see a universe marvelously arranged and obeying certain laws, but only dimly understand these laws. Our limited minds cannot grasp the mysterious force that moves the constellations. At the same time, like the child, most of us know intuitively that there is a design to the universe in which we live. I call this design the universal flow of life. You can think of this universal flow like a current of water going in a particular direction. As long as we flow with the current, life works and works well. We end the zone, so to speak. But what happens when one current of water going in one direction meets with another current of water going in a different direction? At the point where the two currents meet, you will find turbulence. And what I'm suggesting is that much of our culture is going against the universal flow of life, thus creating our turbulent times. But the elements of the spiral of fulfillment are in complete alignment with the universal flow. In other words, if we want to regain our equilibrium, if we want our lives to work, aligning our lives with the spiral of fulfillment will allow us to once again enter the natural flow of the universe. The great thing about the spiral of fulfillment is that it doesn't matter where you start. You may start by one day realizing that your life has become far too busy and complicated and that it's time to simplify matters. Or perhaps you even realizing that your life is missing direction and meaning. You may know that you meant to be of service but are unsure how or where. Or, you may feel like there's something missing from your life, that you more than just a body and mind, but that you been operating as only a two-dimensional figure. If so, you may start on the spiral of fulfillment by adding a new dimension of spirituality to your life. Wherever you begin on the spiral of fulfillment, if you stay involved, you will no doubt find the other aspects of the spiral slipping naturally into your life as well. Here a brief overview of some of the starting points where you may begin to align your life with the universal flow, which will ultimately lead to a life on purpose. Service. Service has gotten a bad rap lately, or has been confused with such terms as customer service or service with a smile. But what does a purposeful, passionate and playful life of service mean? It means quite simply that you'll be more satisfied and fulfilled in your life when you express your true life purpose in service to others. Think of it this way: your true, divinely inspired life purpose is who you are as a spiritual being and what you came here to planet Earth to be and experience. And since we are all here as spiritual beings who have a physical experience, we also here to express our purpose through service to others. Now, hold on. There's another part. Engaging in service for others doesn't mean at your own expense. It's important for you to take care of yourself at the same time, so you will have plenty of energy to serve others, not just plenty of physical energy but also mental, emotional and spiritual energy. The first step to taking care of yourself is to take the time to clarify what you're most passionate about, which is closely associated with your life purpose. In fact, when you bring clarity of purpose to your life, you are then able to tap into a wellspring of passion and enthusiasm that can fuel your efforts to express and fulfill your purpose. All of this is augmented when you add a healthy dose of purposeful play into the mix. With purposeful play, you bring a childlike innocence and sense of awe and wonder to your daily life. There's a sense of freedom and a willingness to flow with what flowing as you open to exploring and experimenting with life. Simplicity. There's a growing, quiet movement underfoot to simplify our lives. Many of us have realized the great American dream of owning a huge house, with 2 late model cars in the garage, expensive vacations and all the trimmings of a keeping up with the Joneses lifestyle has one fatal flaw: such a lifestyle doesn't guarantee our happiness. As modern-day spiritual sage, Bo Lozoff, co-founder of the Human Kindness Foundation, points out in his book, Deep and Simple Tea Time, we notice that the Joneses are not happy. One of their kids is on drugs, the parents are in divorce court, Mr. Jones is $50,000 in just debt, and Mrs. Jones is taking antidepressant medication. But we have to be careful about the notion of simplicity. Many of us have also misinterpreted it to mean frugality, depravity, or even poverty. It's not that either, which is why we're introducing the distinction of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity. A simple approach to life starts with being mindful, as in thoughtful, awake and aware. This means taking the time to reflect upon what's most important in life and to do so from a mentality of abundance and gratitude rather than from a consciousness of lack or limitation. When you start living a life of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity, you start to realize that such a life can look quite different for people. As Vicki Robin, co-author of Your Money or Your Life, once said, simple living isn't a cookie-cutter lifestyle. Spiritual serenity. I was raised in the Bible Belt of the South, where I was taught that there are two subjects that you are safer not talking about in public: politics and religion. But it's time we all broke our O of silence, and for many of us closet spirits, to come out and express ourselves and our faith in a higher power. Embracing a sense of the great mystery of the universe through an authentic spiritual inquiry will add a whole new dimension to your life. What form this dimension takes is completely up to the individual. After all, that's one of the basic freedoms upon which the United States of America was built. It's time we got back to it. And for now, that's all the Southern gentleman has to say on the subject. But read on for more. Elegance. I've been told that there's a principle in physics known as elegance that says that the universe operates in the simplest manner possible. Thus, water takes the path of least resistance, a notion that a lot of us could learn from. An object is pulled by gravity in a straight line unless another object or force comes into play, and so forth. When you combine the distinctions of service and simplicity in the spiral of fulfillment, what arises is the possibility of living an elegant life. To quote Einstein again, everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Each morning as I prepare myself for the day, I recite a purposeful prayer that helps me get in touch with my life purpose, so it will be my purpose that shapes my day. A part of this litany points to the idea of elegance. It goes like this: I rest in the assurance of knowing that as I continue to live true to my life purpose, the entire universe provides amply, abundantly and in perfect timing all the resources necessary for the ongoing expression and fulfillment of this purpose. My job, first and foremost, is to live true to my life purpose. That's elegance in a nutshell. Peace of mind. When you meld simplicity and spiritual serenity together, you get peace of mind, something that is usually absent if either one of these key ingredients is missing. This might explain the incredibly high suicide rate in this country and the fact that Valium is one of the most widely purchased drugs year after year. Want more peace of mind in your life? Try the simple recipe. Add 1 cup of simplicity with 2 cups of spiritual serenity. Fold gently together while breathing deeply. Add a pinch of gratitude to taste. Let set for several minutes. While it's congealing, go take a quiet soak in a hot tub of water surrounded by candles. A peace of mind contribution. All I've ever wanted to do in life is make a difference with other people. In my view, contributing to others' lives is what we all most want from life. When you know your purpose, you know how to contribute. You know your unique gift of being. Your sole purpose is to offer to others. Through an authentic spiritual exploration, you realize that we are all connected to each other and to the whole universe. When these two ideas are combined, the possibility of us all contributing to each other is the natural outcome. A life on purpose. At the center of the spiral for fulfillment, where all these basic ingredients are blended together, is where a life on purpose lives. As you read this book, I invite you to savor each chapter. Imagine each one as like a fresh slice of orange or a juicy, sun-ripened strawberry. As you read, roll the ideas and insights around in your mind. Ponder these notions between your readings. Take your time, but take action on the ideas that make the most sense. If you do, I believe you will find that it is possible to live a satisfying and fulfilling life on purpose, no matter how turbulent the rest of the world may be. And given enough time, I have faith we can all create a world on purpose in this way. Beginning the journey. It is my deepest desire that the following selection of essays will assist you in traveling along the spiral of fulfillment, and that with each turn along the spiral, your life will take on a deeper sense of purpose as you discover new ways to be of service, while also simplifying your life, and bringing a profound sense of serenity as you reconnect with your true self. Good morning, Mother, Father, God, Infinite Universe. I come in this moment to co-create who I am, knowing that who I am is who I say I am, into your generous, gentle, grace-filled, and loving listening. Who I say I am is a divine spiritual being choosing to live an inspired and inspiring life of purposeful, passionate, and playful service. A life of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity and spiritual serenity. This is who I am. I rest in the assurance of knowing and trusting down to the very core of my being and soul that as I live true to this purpose I have said myself to be, the entire universe God continues to provide amply, abundantly, and in perfect timing all the resources necessary for the ongoing expression and fulfillment of this purpose. Therefore, my job first and foremost is to continue living true to this purpose, and I do. I live a purposeful, passionate, and playful life of service, a life of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity, and a life of spiritual serenity. It is this clarity of purpose that I am so grateful for, because it allows me to tap into a wellspring of passion, enthusiasm, love, and wisdom as I purposefully, passionately, and playfully in awe and wonder, free and flowingly of service to all of humankind, to life itself, to dear, sweet Mother Earth, and ultimately, to God. I also live a life of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity, in that I know and experience living in and being an integral part of an infinitely abundant universe, where there are ample resources of every form and description readily available for the asking. I balance this deep knowing with a simple and elegant way of life. Most important of all, I live a life of spiritual serenity, knowing that I am consistently connected to and in communication with the cosmic consciousness and creator of this incredible cosmos, whom I know as God. One of the greatest challenges of our time is the crisis of meaning. In fact, Dan Azor, author of SQ, Spiritual Intelligence, The Ultimate Intelligence, states that, not only is it one of the major issues of our time, but that 2 of the top 10 causes of death in the Western world, suicide and alcoholism, are frequently related to this crisis of meaning. And yet, when we become crystal clear about why we even born to this physical reality, we are able to tap into a wellspring of passion, compassion, wisdom, creativity, and universal love, so that where we all start on this spiral of fulfillment, while it possible to start on the spiral of fulfillment at any point, the purposeful service point, the simplicity point, or the spiritual serenity point, we need to pick one point to start this book. So I choosing the purposeful, passionate, and playful service point, and here why. 7 in 10 individuals without a clearly defined purpose felt unsettled about their lives, while almost 7 in 10 with a purpose felt satisfied. This was the finding as reported in the book, I Just Want My Kids to Be Happy, by Aaron Cooper and Eric Keitel, M.Ed. That's a pretty dramatic difference, wouldn't you say? This section is intended to give you the O2 of clarifying your life purpose. For that I recommend you read my other book, Life on Purpose, 6 Passages to an Inspired Life, that outlines and details a proven, systematic, spiritually based process that has assisted thousands of people in clarifying their life purpose and in designing their lives to be an authentic reflection of that purpose. Please see the appendix in the back of this book for more purposeful resources. This chapter addresses why it is necessary to do the work, in order to bring clarity of purpose to your life. So, let's start by further distinguishing what I mean by the term, clarity of purpose. There are 3 different components: knowing your true, divinely inspired life purpose with crystal clarity. In other words, knowing your life purpose so well that if someone woke you at 3:00 in the morning and asked you what your life purpose is, you'd be able to tell them clearly and succinctly. Knowing with equal clarity the other life-shaping force that so often keeps people from either knowing their life purpose or from living true to their purpose. In the Life on Purpose process, I refer to this as the inherited purpose. It's important to know this because one of the primary things that gives the inherited purpose so much of its life-shaping power is that it operates most effectively in the background of our awareness. So, bringing it to the light of day is a key step in being able to choose whether to allow the fear and lack-based nature of the inherited purpose to shape your life or not. Having the tools and the commitment to use these tools to design a life that is a true and authentic reflection of your life purpose. Said another way, if the people who know you were to hear you share your life purpose with that person who intruded in on your sleep, they say, that is her life purpose. I know because their life is a reflection of that purpose. Let's look at number 1 inch more depth. Knowing your true life purpose starts with a shift in perspective in our view what a life purpose is. The evolution of life purpose. While the question of what is one life purpose is a timeless inquiry, I believe we are now at a point where our perspective of life purpose is evolving. This is a time of transition from the old, cultural perspective to a new perspective, the Life on Purpose perspective. The old cultural perspective says your life purpose is what you are supposed to do with your life. When you operate from this perspective and go to answer the question, how then is my own personal life purpose? Many people identify their work as their life purpose. Others may identify some primary role in life as their life purpose. For women, this is often to be a good mother or a loyal spouse. For men, They may define their purpose as being a good provider or a good dad, but let's consider this term, life purpose, for a moment. DOES, and it makes sense that your life purpose should encompass all of your life, not just certain segments of it. Another common outcome of operating from this cultural perspective is that we end up with a life filled to overflowing with doing, and for many people they may find themselves doing more and more while enjoying it less and less. So, let's consider another perspective, the life on purpose perspective. It goes like this: your life purpose is the context, vessel or container into which you pour your life. Said another way, consider that your life purpose is more about who you are as a spiritual being and what you came here to this life to be and to experience. Since this is a new perspective for many people, let's explore it in more depth by going through the following exercise together. I have found that labeling the various circles of the diagram above helps to integrate this perspective into your thinking, so please, play along with me. Circle 1 represents the doing or action part of life. So write in these words doing action and the relationship between that circle and circle 2, which represents the having aspect of life. So write in circle 2 these words having results. We often do things so that we can have things. For example, I went to 7 years of college to earn a degree in veterinary medicine. This relationship is represented by the top semicircle arrow. Of course, as I already alluded to, if we are not mindful we can easily slip into a vicious circle of doing, etc. This can lead to a sense of doing more and more while enjoying life less and less. This vicious circle is often the product of the cultural perspective regarding your life purpose, and it's really easy to get trapped in the vicious circle, in part because it's so much a part of our culture being the way we do things, especially in our Western society. Also, these two aspects of life occur in the physical part of our world, and it's pretty easy for us to stay aware of the physical aspect of life with our 5 senses. However, there's simply a lot more to life than the physical aspect, so let's see how we can access a deeper sense of purpose and meaning in our lives. Circle 3 represents the being aspect of life, so let's start by labeling it with these words: being, experience, meaning. Now, here an important point to consider: who we are, or more accurately, who we consider ourselves to be, has a direct influence on what we see possible to do. This relationship of being and doing is represented by the other semicircle arrow. To illustrate this important point, let's look at a simple example. Let's say you are in the midst of starting a new job, but you are really only taking the job because you have bills to pay and a family to feed. You are not sure it is the job for you. In fact, you are pretty sure it isn't. You don't like the person you are going to be working for. The work environment seems rigid and depressing, and the work seems to be tedious and unrewarding. But, you are afraid if you don't take the job, you'll get even further into financial difficulties. Can you see that how you are being, that is your attitude, beliefs, thoughts, and feelings about the job will influence your action and performance on the job, which will then affect the results as well. It's a cascading effect. Now, let's say there's another person who about to start the same kind of job, but who this person is being regarding the job as an excited person. She's looking forward to getting to know her co-workers, and while she realizes her boss might be a bit of a challenge, she's looking forward to finding ways to work with him and to be of service. Sure, the work may be a little tedious at first, but she's confident that the better she does at the job, the sooner she'll be able to move up to more satisfying duties. So, she comes to work excited, and with the intention to do her best in service to others. Can you see that the actions she sees to take will be different, as will her performance, and not surprising, also her results will be different. Wow, who we are has a lot to do with the quality of our life. DOES. And you may be asking, how does this all have to do with life purpose? Well, let's go back to our diagram once more, and ask this question: what informs us as to who we are or who we consider ourselves to be? Said another way, if this realm of being is so important, how can we access it in a way that will serve us in living a more purposeful and meaningful life? Remember, I indicated that the aspects of doing and having occur in the physical part of our world, but as you can see from the diagram, the being aspect occurs in the non-physical part of the cosmos. So hang in with me for a little longer, and I think this will all make sense. It may even result in a large aha moment. What is the simplest component of the physical part of the cosmos? The basic building block that we learned about in 9th grade science class. It's atoms, right? And atoms come together to form molecules of matter. So fill in those blanks on the diagram. Now, let's look at the non-physical side. On this side, There are not one but two components that come together to form a different kind of molecule. So, what gives us our sense of ourselves, of who we are? What are those two basic building blocks of our being? Try this on. Our thoughts, our feelings or emotions. These two come together to form molecules of meaning. Consider this perspective for just a moment. When you do, you may notice that, just like in our example above with the two people starting work, there are thoughts and feelings that empower us and enhance our lives, and those that can disempower us and detract from life. That leads us back to life purpose, and a major point of this exercise. I like you to consider that we have not one but two purposes, in that we have two powerful life-shaping forces in our life, as represented in our diagram by the two smaller circles. Circle 4 represents your true life purpose. I often refer to this as your divinely inspired life purpose because it helps remind me that the very foundation from which our true purpose arises is the attractive force of universal love. This foundation can also equate with one relationship to God or a higher power, or one spiritual nature or spirituality. So, in Circle 4 write love DILP, and this is who we truly are. We are heavenly inspired spiritual beings brought to earth to have a physical experience. But we not quite done yet. What about Circle 5? Well, as we all know, we often have thoughts and feelings that aren't based in universal love, that don't give us a sense of abundance, and that don't give us the freedom to flow with life, and that our second purpose, what I refer to as the inherited purpose. This second powerful life-shaping force is and based in universal love, but is instead based in fear, a sense of lack, and a need to struggle in order to survive. And you're the last main point for now. The inherited purpose is the lie you've been telling yourself about yourself and about life for so long that you come to believe it to be true, and it not. It a lie. The reason we call it the inherited purpose is because it developed so early in our life, during our formative years as a child, and it often feels like something we were born into, or inherited. And it also formed from molecules of meaning, but these molecules are of a different nature from those of our true purpose. These molecules are based in fear, and a sense of lack, and they often lead to us struggling to make it in life. You see, for all of us as we go through these early formative years, stuff happens and people say things that have us feeling threatened or insecure. These can be major traumatic happenings like the loss of a parent, or a divorce, or a series of smaller incidences. When they happen we feel threatened, unsafe or insecure. And since we naturally meaning-making beings, we make up some meaning not on a conscious level but quietly in the background of our awareness. Before we know it, we fabricated a story that explains or justifies all those things that have happened, not even realizing that the story is based in fear and lack. We also think that the story is true, but it not. It a lie. It a fantasy. But, in the same way that our true life purpose can shape our actions and results, our inherited purpose can shape the actions we see to take, and those actions will be consistent and in a dance with the lie, and will result in results that are consistent with the story, which of course, only goes on to fortify and make the story that much more real. Now for some good news. Uncovering the inherited purpose and bringing it from the background of our consciousness to the foreground is one of the most important steps in clarifying your true purpose and then living true to it. When you distinguish your inherited purpose, you can then begin to have an inherited purpose rather than being had by it. But there one last piece of the clarity of purpose puzzle: being able to live true to your purpose. Living your purpose where the rubber meets the road. When you done the inner work to uncover your inherited purpose so you can begin to be responsible for it, and you clarified your true, divinely inspired life purpose, you set the stage for a profound and lasting transformation in your life. However, the work isn't done yet. In fact, the last piece can be the most challenging and ultimately most transformational of all. Living true to your purpose. They're an old coaching formula I learned from my first coach, Judy, over 20 years ago. It goes like this: I plus R equal G and D. I equal insights, G and D equal growth and development. Of course, you may have already guessed that the stands for action. You see, uncovering your inherited purpose and clarifying your divinely inspired life purpose are major insights. Mega insights in that they have the potential to transform your entire life. But they are still just insights. And like Judy once told me, insights are like a pinch in the buttocks. Momentarily interesting but hardly life-transforming. But combine these insights with action and you have true growth and development in your life. Living a life on purpose is a process, a journey. Getting to the place where the people who know would say, your life is a reflection of your true purpose, DOES, and happen overnight. but it can happen, and it does and need to take decades to be known and to start expressing your life purpose. It does take being in action and not getting distracted or derailed by your inherited purpose. So, as we close out this chapter, take a moment to write down the insights you gleaned. Then, pick at least one of those insights and write out an action or two that you will take to begin to integrate the insight into your life. A bold, audacious action. If you feel you may be ready to clarify your life purpose using the Life on Purpose process as your roadmap, there are several ways to experience the power of the process. To learn more, go to www.lifeonpurpose.com/LOPPROCESS. My job first and foremost is to continue living true to this purpose, and I do. I live a purposeful, passionate, and playful life of service, a life of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity, and a life of spiritual serenity. It is this clarity of purpose that I am so grateful for, because it allows me to tap into a wellspring of passion, enthusiasm, love, and wisdom as I purposefully, passionately, and playfully in awe and wonder, free and flowingly of service to all of humankind, to life itself, to dear, sweet Mother Earth, and ultimately to God. As part of my purposeful prayer says above, knowing your life purpose allows you to then tap into a wellspring of passion and enthusiasm that can fuel your life. I will provide an example where I followed the breadcrumbs of my passion. One of the major transformational times of my life started while attending an advanced training on leading prosperity workshops led by Edwin Gaines and Bert Carson. It was there where I learned that one of the powerful principles for prosperity was identifying your divine life purpose. Oh, I heard that before, but previously it had landed as interesting information that I one day get around to exploring. That day finally came during the spiritual retreat where I finally got it and started to integrate living on purpose into my life. While returning home from the retreat, I felt guided to swing by Flat Rock, North Carolina, on my way back to Greensboro, although for the life of me I didn't know exactly why. But, I thought, what a great opportunity to apply some of the principles I learned, including trusting those good feelings without needing a full-blown explanation. So, I detoured to the mountains, going to the only place in Flat Rock I was familiar with, Highland Lake Conference Center. My wife, Ann, and I had spent a very pleasant July 4th weekend there with her family a couple of years before, which had been our first exposure to the quaint retirement and resort area. We also spent the last year exploring the question, since we can now live anywhere we want since I sold my veterinary practice a couple of years before, where do we choose to live? As I sat in my car gazing at the waterfalls at the entrance to Highland Lake, I realized that was the question I was there to explore further. During the previous year, we visited numerous spots that we enjoyed, but none had compared to the feelings we had in Flat Rock. So, my inner guidance was telling me I was in Flat Rock to find our new home. But how to start? I asked my inner guidance. Drive around, came the reply. Well, duh. That made sense. The houses WOULDN come to me, so I have to go to the houses. So I begin to drive around as close as possible in an ever-widening spiral around Highland Lake. Less than 10 minutes later, and within a mile of Highland Lake, I saw a redwood chalet home nestled among the trees with a for sale sign in the front yard. I slowed down to look more closely. I thought it looked interesting, so I drove around it, writing down the phone number from the sign. Just a block away, I found a payphone at the nearby Millhouse Lodge. I stopped and called the realtor. After getting the information I needed, I sat in the car for a moment to heck in with my guidance. I'm to go home was the message that came to me, so I did. As I walked into the house back in Greensboro, I glibly announced to Ann, found our new home in Flat Rock. Let's put this one up for sale. Much to my surprise, with hardly any hesitation, she responded, "K, let's do it. By the way, welcome home." Breadcrumbs of passion. What does following the breadcrumbs of your passion mean? Well, think of it this way. Imagine you like Hansel and Gretel, going through the forest following a path of breadcrumbs. Following your passion is often like that. Sometimes you may only be able to see one or two breadcrumbs out in front of you, and often you might not know clearly where the line of breadcrumbs is taking you. Following such a path is really an act of faith, as demonstrated by my trip to Flat Rock several years ago. It's been my personal experience and my experience with working with many other people, that if you will trust yourself to follow the breadcrumbs of your passion, you will never be disappointed by where you end up. Not only did I discover my dream home in Flat Rock in this way, but it also how I came to my dream career, and how the Life on Purpose Institute was founded. Not long after relocating to Flat Rock to the Redwood Chalet, I realized that I wanted to bring more purpose and passion to my freelance writing career. As I shared in the introduction, my writing was a significant part of how I was earning a living as well as how I was expressing my creative spark. Up to this point, most of the magazine editors and other writers who knew me as a former veterinarian who wrote articles for national magazines about animals, pets, and health-related issues. But I knew my purpose in life was much more than that. While I was still clarifying my true purpose, I did feel that one of the ways I wanted to express that purpose was by assisting other people in clarifying and living true to their own purpose. One of the ways I was now expressing that life purpose was by leading the prosperity workshops that included the principle of knowing your divine life purpose. Now, it became time to bring more purpose to my writing career. Thus my first purpose project was born, to write and publish articles about people and institutions whose lives and missions are dedicated to a bold and inspiring purpose or vision. As I started to include this pet project in my query letters to editors, I soon had my first project purpose assignment from New Age Journal, a feature article about Bo Lozoff, the founder of the Human Kindness Foundation. What a glorious assignment it was. I loved every minute of the process, from the in-person interviews, the writing itself, and even the rewriting and editing was virtually painless. And at the end, the payment was over twice the amount I ever been paid for a single article. I knew I was onto something about bringing passionate purpose to my life. So, I continued to attract more delectable assignments, and after writing a few dozen, I began to notice some patterns and similarities, including that many of these purposeful people had created a way to express their purpose and passion in some organized way, either a non-profit or a for-profit business. Whichever form, each person was able to express their purpose in work that contributed to humanity while providing them with the means to support themselves and their families. So, I asked myself, if they can do it, why can I? Obviously, it was from that question that the seed of Life on Purpose Institute was planted. And what I'm suggesting is that you too can create and build your life on purpose in the same way if you will follow this one important principle. Follow the breadcrumbs of your passion. Purposeful pondering questions for tapping into your passion. Here are a few questions to help you get in touch with some of your passion-filled breadcrumbs. What do you love to do? Remember the times when you were most alive and excited by life. What were you doing during those times? Don't worry right now whether what you were doing was earning income or not. Asking a question at this point like, but how do I make a living doing that? Won't be all that productive and may stifle your inspiration. What activities do you currently enjoy so much that you either doing them for free or you would be willing to do them for free? When I was first asked this question, one of the things I was doing as a volunteer was coaching people for a personal development company, and I loved it. At that time, very few people had even heard of life coaching, and almost no one was making a career at it. Still, it started the wheels turning. What are some of your natural gifts and talents? The things that you do so well that you may take them for granted. For example, my wife is a great listener, and she able to use this skill quite effectively in her coaching practice. I love to dream and speculate about big visions and possibilities. Not surprisingly, I loved reading fantasy and science fiction when I was growing up. I still do. So, being the Chief Visionary Officer of Life on Purpose Institute, Incorporated is a great way to exercise this gift. What are you curious about? Oftentimes, the flame of passion starts with a flicker of curiosity that can easily be fed into life. As the old saying goes, curiosity kills the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. And in the process of bringing satisfaction to your curiosity, you may uncover a new area of passion. This next question requires your knowing your true, divinely inspired life purpose. If you don't yet know it with real clarity, you can go to www.lifeonpurpose.com/LOPPROCESS. There you will learn more about the Life on Purpose process. What would your life purpose look like if it took physical form? Would it be a book, a series of books, a business, a volunteer position for a non-profit, traveling around the world? Remember, while it's great fun to create a way to both express your life purpose and make a living, not every path of breadcrumbs need lead in the direction especially not at first. A common yearning I often hear from people interested in living a more purposeful and meaningful life is their desire to have something in their life that inspires them to get out of bed in the morning. They are looking for something that will pull them from their bed other than just the blaring alarm clock or needing to relieve themselves. They want to come forth into the new day, not out of the fear of survival, of needing to get up and go to work so they can pay their bills, but from a sense of excitement and enthusiasm for what before them in their day. This idea of being inspired out of bed and into the day is what I call waking up on purpose. I consider it one of the most enjoyable benefits of clearly knowing and living your life purpose. And yet being clear about your purpose is not always enough to wake up on purpose. It's also important to bring a level of intention to your early morning hours. Here are some strategies that I have found to be beneficial. Start by getting enough sleep. Oftentimes, as people begin to redesign their life to be on purpose, they need to start by eliminating the sense of striving. Many live from fear and survival rather than from a place of inspiring purpose. A common side effect of this constant striving is that many of us shortchange the amount of sleep we get. Here are some alarming findings from the National Sleep Foundation 2002 Annual Sleep Survey. Almost 74% of all Americans do not get enough sleep each night. Most will feel sleepy or groggy during the week. 51% of adults say they have problems sleeping at least a few nights each week. Almost 1/3 have trouble sleeping every night. Half of all Americans cannot get up without an alarm clock. Alarm clocks interrupt the sleep cycle, causing a lack of energy and feeling unrefreshed in the morning. Those with sleep problems are twice as likely to feel stressed and tired. While there is no one right amount of sleep for all of us, it is important to determine what is the right amount for you. I would suggest, given the above statistics, you make the assumption that you are probably not getting enough sleep. Most of us can eliminate several hours of non-productive time, such as spacing out in front of the television, or surfing the web for hours, and invest it more productively by resting our body, mind, and spirit with sleep. Throw away the alarm clock. Now I know for many people this seems completely impossible. How would you ever get up in the morning if it weren't for your alarm clock? But have you ever stopped to wonder what it is about your life that requires you to shock yourself awake with a loud noise? According to an article in Psychology Today, if you need an alarm clock to wake you up in the first place, that's a sure sign you aren't getting enough sleep. If you allowed yourself to go to sleep when you are tired, and trusted your body to gauge its own need for sleep, you would be able to wake up without an alarm clock, and you'd feel energized the whole day. So, maybe it's time to wean yourself off of using an alarm clock. If you need some assistance in waking up by a particular time, once you are sure you are getting enough sleep, try waking up to music, or to a more subtle method like a Zen clock, which gives a soft tone of increasing frequency, which will slowly and gently wake you up. The next step would be to set your internal wake-up system. As you start to drift off to sleep, set the intention to naturally and easily awaken at a specific time, a little bit before you set your mechanical device. With a little practice it won't be long before you will need the mechanical device. If you getting enough sleep each night, count your blessings. One of my favorite ways of awakening in the morning is by doing some gratitude work. When I first become conscious, as soon as I realize I awake, I push up in bed, propping myself up with 2 or 3 pillows. I lie there listening to the birds outside my window. In that quiet space between sleep and wakefulness, I give thanks for my life. I thank God for my family, for my work, for my pets, for a good night's sleep, for knowing what my purpose is, and in this way, I bring myself into the day. Read inspiring material. Once I fully awake, I usually take a few minutes to read something positive, inspiring, and often spiritual. One of my favorite books for this is Alan Cohen, A Deep Depth of Life. Each page contains a daily, inspirational quote, a short article, a prayer, and an affirmation, all related to the subject of that day. Pick what works for you. It might be the Bible, or any other book that inspires you. Keep an assortment of them close to your bed. As you read, reflect upon how the material pertains to you and you're living a life filled with purpose and meaning. Go to sleep on purpose. Remember, our days and our nights are cyclical in nature. How we start our day is often determined by how we ended our night, which is why I never bother to watch the 11 o'clock news. I don't want to end my day with a report on all the murders, abuses, and crimes that have happened in the past 24 hours. Before bed is another great time for some gratitude work. You can also take a few minutes to review your day to see where you were on purpose, as well as acknowledging and, through forgiveness work, letting go of where you were off purpose. This is a great way to complete your day. You'll then be ready to begin the next day on purpose as well. Call to action. Which of the above suggestions resonates most strongly with you? Pick this one and begin to incorporate it into your sleep routine. Replacing an old bad habit with a new good habit will add even more value to the experience. I prefer thinking of these as replacing purpose patterns that are detracting from the quality of your life with purpose patterns that will enhance your life. For example, you might try experimenting for 30 days by replacing a habit of watching the evening news before retiring with writing down 10 things about the day you are thankful for. This writing task can include noting a few experiences where you felt like you brought a deeper sense of purpose and meaning to your life. At the end of 30 days, choose whether to continue the new habit or go back to the old. It's really your choice because it's your life. One of my favorite power tools for living on purpose is purposeful play, in part because it made such a difference in my life and in the lives of many other people that I coached. It goes like this: purposeful play, working on a project, goal, or task in such a way that you're willing to play and experiment with it while having a particular plan or intention. The secret to purposeful play is being committed to a particular result or outcome without being attached to that outcome. There are 3 important parts to this tool for living on purpose. 1. The experience or way of being. You enter into a project, goal, or task in purposeful play. You're ready to experiment, to explore, and to discover. There's a lightness and playfulness too. At the same time, your actions are not random but are guided by an intention or a purpose. It's like flowing down a river, allowing the currents to carry you while also using your oar to direct yourself. 3. Last of all, the freedom to be playful comes from staying committed to the project, goal, or task without getting attached to the results. The spirit of purposeful play is one of awe, wonder, exploration, and discovery. It's a spirit of adventure. So often, as adults, we enter into our next goal or project far too seriously. I know I sure can, and it can sap the energy from any project, no matter how on purpose it might be. The spirit of such projects is one of produce the results no matter what. And it's so prevalent in today's world that you may think it the only way to approach a project or goal. Well, I'm here to offer another approach, and here why. You know how nuts most of us become about producing results. We become so attached to desired results, and we are so caught up in the need to produce them that life becomes all about the results. We end up missing out on the joy and satisfaction that could come from the goal or project. But when you add in purposeful play, you work on the project in such a way that you're willing to play and experiment with it while having a particular plan or intention. One way to make this shift is to consider your goals or projects as purpose projects, something you have chosen to take on that will allow you to be and to express your life purpose in the world. This goes for projects that others may assign to you, like a project at work. While your boss may be assigning the project, it's powerful for you to realize that in the accepting of the project you choosing it. In this moment, you can also choose to hold it as a purpose project. The secret to purposeful play is being committed to a particular result or outcome without being attached to the outcome. Play as though your purpose projects are about the results, while at the same time always remember that the primary purpose of a purpose project is to be and to express your life purpose. While this purposeful paradox can be challenging at times, it's well worth the effort. For example, when I first started the Life on Purpose Institute as a web-supported enterprise, I first started with a small, homemade website and long before I realized there was a much larger interest in life purpose than I imagined, so I decided to purposefully play a larger game by investing the time, energy, and money in a professional site. Within only 3-4 months after launching the new site and with very little marketing, we were getting a barrage of inquiries from people all over the world who wanted to know their purpose. It became clear that if I wanted to continue to live true to my own life purpose, which by this time had evolved to a life of purpose for service, simplicity and spiritual serenity, I was going to need to find a way to duplicate my efforts. So, in the summer of 1999, the first Coaches Development Program was launched, which is the means in which people are trained as Life on Purpose coaches and become a part of our global coaches community. In this way, I was able to expand my efforts to create a world on purpose, while still keeping my own life in balance. I can tell you, along the way I also have had plenty of opportunities to get caught up in producing certain results I had set. But, then I remember, 8 a minute. This project, the Life on Purpose Institute, isn't really about producing any particular results. I created it to give me and others a way to be known, and to express our life purposes. Relax. And most of the time, I did. Interestingly enough, often after relaxing and letting go of my attachment to the results would begin to happen. After all, we are much more effective at life when we are free to be and to express our true nature, rather than being bound up by the need to produce some result. So, remember to practice the wow-headedness of purposeful play. Play like your purpose projects are all about the results, while never forgetting that they are really about you being and expressing your life purpose. Living on purpose is a lot more fun when you keep purposefully playing with purpose projects. How would you like to capture 62% of your business market? Well, Vic Firth has done it. His company produces well over half the drumsticks in America, and while he admits that innovation is an important part of the formula, he claims the number one ingredient is persistence, and persistence. I agree, and I would add to that formula purpose and patience. The combo results in the Life on Purpose tool of purposeful patience and persistence. From the book, Life on Purpose, 6 Passages to an Inspired Life. The process of staying on purpose and balancing the realization that bringing a new level of purposeful living into your life takes time, and at the same time, staying persistently in action towards the fulfillment of your purpose projects. The more I work with the Life on Purpose process and endeavor to live my own life on purpose, I have found purposeful patience and persistence to be a powerful and life-enhancing power tool for living on purpose. Perhaps one of the reasons I feel this combination of patience and persistence to be so powerful is that I noticed it often missing from my life and my clients' lives. Let's face it, we just not a very patient society. We want a lot from life these days, and we want it all today, or as I often say when my impatience is running the show, want it, and I want it yesterday. We a society of instant everything, including instant gratification, and if we don't get what we want quickly, we often just give up. That's where the second half of this equation comes in. Some things in life simply take more time than others, and so if we truly do desire them, we need to be willing to hang in there a bit longer, sometimes a lot longer. This is where practicing purposeful patience and persistence can really pay off. They really make a great combo. To me, this distinction means that for those things that are consistent with our divinely inspired life purpose, it's worth being patient and persistent. They are worth the wait, and in the meantime we continue to persist in our intention to manifest our desires. While it may sound like purposeful patience and persistence is passive in nature, I don't think that's true. At least not entirely. It's more of a balancing act between knowing when it's time to patiently wait for what wanting to happen and allowing it to happen in God's own time. What I refer to as the wine before time approach. Knowing when it's time to take the simmering pot off the back burner and place it on the front burner as you turn up the heat of inspired action. Another aspect of purposeful patience is taking the time to check in with your inner guidance. This is especially true if you have several projects in process at the same time. More than likely, some of those projects are ready to be moved forward while others are best left to simmer on the back burner. Check in with your inner guidance by sitting quietly for a few minutes, while you allow your various purpose projects to bubble up in your awareness. Feel the ones that seem primed for action. Check in to see which ones excite you, and check that you can see a clear next step to take. Doing this on a regular basis will also help you develop a deeper trust in your inner guidance. I personally think of my inner guidance as the CEO of Life on Purpose Institute and of my life. By CEO, I mean my cosmic enlightened officer. Our working relationship is on a need-to-know basis, so it's important that I meet with my CEO on a regular basis so I can be kept informed about where I'm being directed to go next in my business as well as in my life. Purposeful patience and persistence is a powerful combo. I invite you to play with it this week by picking some area of your life, a current goal or project, and integrating purposeful patience and persistence into it. Let's start with a playful riddle. What do a dog and God have in common besides the same letters in the words? Answer: unconditional love. At least that's what I've heard all my life. Of course, you can probably tell I'm a dog lover as well as a lover of God. And if you are offended by the riddle, I invite you to get over it. God loves a good joke and even laughs at the bad ones. How come? Well, it all goes back to unconditional love. The God force that makes up this universe loves unconditionally. That means without limits, judgment, or bias. God loves the bad joke teller as well as the rest of the human race, equally. That's unconditional love. But what does unconditional love have to do with living and loving on purpose? Everything. Here's how we describe the relationship that exists between unconditional love and your true life purpose in the life on purpose process. As the process was originally coming to me, or perhaps to be more accurate I should say through me, I realized that I was looking for the basic elements that could be blended together and that would consistently result in a life purpose with these three primary properties. The first property of a life purpose is that it should be a powerful shaping force in the person's life. In other words, it would be able to shape that person as they went through each moment of their life doing whatever they were doing. The second property is that a life purpose should be long-lasting and enduring. In other words, it should be able to last a lifetime. And the third property is that, while it would be powerful and enduring, it should at the same time be flexible. What I mean by that is that it should give the person ample room to play and fully express themselves as their life purpose. With these three properties in mind, what I realized next is that there were also three basic elements that, when blended together, would consistently result in life purposes with these properties. Those three elements are a person's unique vision of what's possible in their life and in the world, a unique set of core values, those intangibles of life that mean the most to that person, the essence of the person who they are being in the world at the level of their soul or spirit. I have found through the years with hundreds and thousands of people that when these three elements are identified and then blended together, what is consistently produced is a powerful, life-shaping purpose that is long-lasting yet flexible. But what about unconditional love? That actually came a bit later, during a complimentary coaching session with a first-time client named Faith. It was one of those wonderful coaching sessions in which the client and the coach were transformed, as was the life on purpose process. On that memorable day, Faith made the comment that it appeared to her that these three elements had the love of God in common, and as we all know, the love of God is unconditional. In other words, the very foundation from which our life purposes arise is from the universal attractive force of unconditional love. From this foundation arises each person's unique sense of what is possible, their unique set of core values and the very essence of what they are at the level of their soul. I remember the two of us sniffling over the phone as we both dried our eyes, being so moved by this realization. And I knew in that moment that the life on purpose process had been transformed and taken to a new depth. I have also realized since that time that my own purpose and mission in life was transformed as well. That what I most want for all of humanity is for us all to be able to get in touch with that foundation of unconditional love and to stay connected to that life-enhancing energy. When we do that, we will truly be living and loving in a world on purpose. Purpose practice. Being with your true self here is an exercise that may at first appear incredibly easy but that you may find more daunting in actual practice. Stand in front of a mirror in a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. If you wear glasses, take them off, and stand close enough to be able to see yourself clearly. Now, just be with yourself. Look into your own eyes, know and affirm that you are the divine essence of God. After a few minutes, try smiling at yourself, a warm sincere smile that arises from your spirit, from that wellspring of unconditional love. If emotions begin to arise, simply allow them to come up and gently release them. If you begin to be distracted by thoughts, recognize them and gently release them as well. You may choose to end the practices by gently saying out loud, "Love you unconditionally," as you speak to your true self. I rest in the assurance of knowing and trusting down to the very core of my being and soul that as I live true to my life purpose, God and the entire universe continues to provide amply, abundantly and in perfect timing all the resources necessary in all their many different forms for the continual expression and fulfillment of this purpose. From A Purposeful Prayer by W. Bradford Swift. Note: this next chapter will make a bit more sense if you are clear about your life purpose. If you are still unclear what your purpose is, you can still work with this process. Remember, from the life on purpose perspective, your personal life purpose arises from the attractive force of universal love, an experience of abundance, and a willingness to flow with life. So, in the exercise, use these foundational elements for your life purpose. One of the greatest gifts of knowing your life purpose with crystal clarity is that this clarity sets up a resonating vibration in the universe and you begin to attract the resources necessary so that you can continue to express and fulfill on your purpose. With the recent popularity of such books as The Secret, The Law of Attraction has received a lot of attention. It's certainly not a secret any longer, if it ever was. I believe most people reading this book will agree that it works, and it works in a lot more ways than just attracting a new car or mate. That all fine and good, but for me the law of attraction becomes particularly useful and powerful once you know your life purpose. Your life purpose becomes the beacon or guiding light that lets the universe know the resource you are ready to attract. Resources can take on many different forms, including insights, ideas, other people who can support you in living on purpose as they express their own purpose, material goods including but not limited to money, synchronous occurrences and meetings. So how can you optimize this powerful universal law to aid you in your journey along the purposeful path? Glad you asked. Here is a simple, elegant, and effective process for utilizing the law of attraction to magnetize all of the resources you will ever need to live your life on purpose. Relax. Deep relaxation allows you to become centered with the essence of who you are, your soul and spirit, which is also your connection to the inner wisdom of universal consciousness and divine source. So, begin this process by taking a few deep breaths. As you do so, envision a small pebble being dropped into a quiet pool of crystal clear water. As the pebble slowly descends into the depths of the water, allow yourself to relax more fully while continuing to take deep cleansing breaths. As you relax, gently set the intention that you are connecting with Divine Spirit, using whatever name for Divine Spirit that resonates most fully with you. As the pebble gently settles on the soft, sandy bottom, proceed to the next step. Who are you? In this relaxed, quiet state, begin to direct your consciousness to your life purpose. Speak your life purpose statement to yourself, creating it and embracing each word. Imagine the statement is a delicious morsel of your favorite food, and savor it fully. Example: my life on purpose is to live an inspired and inspiring life of purposeful, passionate, and playful service. A life of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity, and a life of spiritual serenity. As I sit quietly with this, I allow myself to feel each word, and begin to imagine my life being shaped by this life purpose. Know your life purpose statement as a strong connection to Divine Source. Ask for what is next. Once you are fully aware and conscious of your life purpose, ask Divine Source what is next in your expression of this purpose. If you already know what is next, and if you're clear it truly fits into the grand plan of the universe, envision in detail what it will look like once it is completely manifested. Describe it to yourself as though you were sharing it with a trusted friend. Allow yourself to feel the energy and passion arising from it. Example: what's next is the continual growth of Life on Purpose Institute as a thriving international community with an abundance of Life on Purpose certified coaches from around the world, who are assisting people in many different countries to clarify their life purpose and to live true to it, thus creating a world on purpose. Get in touch with the experience of living on purpose as you describe what's next in the expression of your life purpose. Continue to get in touch with the essence of it. Look beyond the form and identify what's the true purpose behind what you're out to manifest. See if you can trace it back to the core feelings and emotions that your soul is wanting to experience more fully. Being clear what positive emotions you want to attract and how it connects with your life purpose assists greatly in the magnetizing effect. Example: expanding to an international organization allows us to deeply and profoundly touch and contribute to more people's lives. All of this gives me an experience of the deep joy and satisfaction that comes from making a difference with people. I also experience a sense of freedom and great peace of mind as I continue to design my life to be an authentic reflection of my life purpose. Feel the experience now. Begin to look for ways to experience the feelings of being on purpose now. You don't have to wait until the physical form of what you're manifesting has arrived. And the more you can experience being on purpose, the more powerfully you will attract to you the perfect resources. Example: each day I check in with my feeling nature to experience joy, satisfaction, freedom, and peace of mind. I allow these positive emotions to wash over me like a cooling and invigorating shower. Amp up your electromagnet as you continue in your restful state of awareness. Begin to imagine a powerful energy source building in the area of your solar plexus. This may be a sphere of white light, a magnetizing core, or any other vision that fits for you. See this energy source growing and expanding beyond your body and see the magnetizing lines of energy radiating out in all directions, pulling to you the perfect ideas, thoughts, emotions, as well as the perfect people, material things, money, and whatever you may need for the full expression and fulfillment of your life purpose. Ask for guidance. Ask your inner guidance what inspired actions to take to assist in the manifestation process, remembering that through your purpose project you are in partnership with the grand design of the universe. Later, take the appropriate actions freely and with no attachment to the outcome. Give thanks, acting as if with a heart of gratitude. Give thanks for what you have received, for indeed, In some future reality you have already manifested what you truly desire, so give thanks as though it is already complete. Return to the present. After giving thanks, begin to bring yourself back to the present. Write down whatever insights you may have seen during your purposeful powwow, as well as any actions you've been directed to take. Then, go about your day living on purpose, with passion and play, knowing that at any time you can tap into the wisdom and creativity of divine source. Some people call them vicious circles or cycles. I prefer to think of them as downward spirals of life. I referring to those periods that we can all become trapped, like in the whirlpool of water as it drains from a tub. If we're not careful and mindful, these downward spirals can suck the life right out of us. They like the spiral of fulfillment in reverse. When we find ourselves trapped in such a downward spiral, our lives can look and feel pretty bleak. Here are a few simple and effective steps you can use to free yourself of such life-draining periods. 1. Notice the spiral you're in. As is often the case, awareness is the first step to intervention. Much of the power of a downward spiral comes from our continuing to be unaware of the direction of our life. Like a whirlpool, a downward spiral's power picks up strength and speed the longer we're in it. So it follows that the sooner we become aware we are trapped in a downward spiral, the easier it will be to change the direction of our life. It's often helpful to remember a downward spiral reversed becomes a spiral of fulfillment. Of course, one aspect of a downward spiral that can keep us stuck is that we often become frenetically busy. Too busy to take the time to reflect upon our lives. I see this often with my clients. As they get more in touch with their life purpose, they begin to take on new projects that allow them to express their purpose, but they may also drop out the very practices and exercises that help them to stay awake and aware of their purpose. This may include missing or postponing coaching sessions. Then, a few weeks later, they may report feeling stuck and off purpose. One of my first questions is to ask which of the tools for living on purpose they continuing to work with to stay present for their life purpose. More often than not the reply is that they been too busy to use the tools. I seen it in my own life as well, and I the guy that invented the tools, and knows how effective they can be. The good news is that once we become aware of straying off course, we can begin to move back to the purposeful path. 2. Allow yourself to be fully present for your life. When you first notice you're in a downward spiral, the tendency is to quickly react in an effort to free yourself. This initial reaction is often based in fear and may only exacerbate the spiral. Another common tendency is to feel guilty or ashamed for having strayed off course, which only further complicates the problem, especially if you allow yourself too long of a pity party. Instead, take some time to notice what is happening in your life from a detached position. Become a witness or observer of your life by stepping outside of it for a while. One simple way to do this is to imagine you are in a movie theater reviewing the story of my life movie. Watch and observe what's been happening in your life without getting caught up in judging yourself. 3. Consciously release the thoughts and emotions. Downward spirals are made up of molecules of meaning that arise from and are consistent with fear and lack-based thinking and emotions. So you can begin to dismantle the downward spiral by identifying these thoughts and emotions, and then gently letting them go. A useful exercise to help in this process is to envision a large bottomless trash can in front of you into which you toss each thought and each emotion attached to the thought, paying particular attention to the ones that feel most disempowering to you. Another approach is to write it all down then burn the paper, thus releasing their hold on you. 4. Resist the temptation to indulge. Don't get sucked into the drama of the movie or the story of your current situation. There's no point in watching the movie over and over. This will only suck you further down the spiral. Observe and move on. Another way to stay stuck in the story is to keep telling it to yourself and others over and over, in the process making it feel more real, and in the process, making yourself feel more hopeless. Be on the lookout for friendships that are built on sharing one another dramatic stories of woe and foreboding. Such relationships only serve to keep each other stuck in life and serve no positive purpose. Misery really does love company, so watch out who you invite to your pity party. 5. Commit to changing directions. Make a conscious choice to change the direction of your spiral. You may write down your choice as a declaration or share it with a friend, loved one, or your coach. Draw a line in the sand. As you make the choice, begin to consider what life could be like if and when you move through the downward spiral, and you reverse its direction. You don't need to try to eat tall buildings in a single bound. It's fine to start with a small step. Going to feel stronger and more on top of my game tomorrow. is a fine way to start. 6. Know the makeup of a downward spiral. Knowing the basic elements that are the composition of a downward spiral will make it easier to change its directions. As I said before, downward spirals are composed of molecules of meaning that can be further broken down into the basic components of fear and lack-based thoughts and emotions. This includes such things as doubt, worry, holding yourself, jealousy, anger, fear, frustration, etc. All of these come together to affect who you think you are, that is, loser, failure, unlovable, etc. That then determines the actions you take and what you say out loud to yourself. All of which then determines what you have, as in the results with which you measure your life. 7. Use the law of attraction to change the spiral's direction. The law of attraction states that like attracts like. So just as fear and lack-based thoughts will attract more thoughts of a similar nature, the same is true of love and abundance-based thoughts. By changing your thoughts and your emotions, you change the direction of the downward spiral. This is where clearly knowing your life purpose can come in handy, because your life purpose statement can be a powerful leverage point for making such a purposeful pivot. But, even if you don't yet have that clarity of purpose, you can use the strategy by identifying thoughts and feelings akin to universal love, a sense of abundance, and a willingness to flow with life. One way to start making such a shift is to remember one or more times when you were in love with life. Perhaps it's a memorable time like the birth of a child, or graduating from college. Or it may be something as simple as remembering a time when you were walking on the beach and felt closely connected to the rest of life. Use these positive memories to help redirect the flow and focus of your thoughts. 8. Practice patience and persistence. Remember, you didn't get into the downward spiral overnight, so don't expect reversing direction to take place in an instance. Just as it takes time to stop a car and put it into reverse, it will take time before you'll see the evidence that your downward spiral has become a spiral of fulfillment. In the meantime, continue to affirm and trust the process. Continue to lubricate the process with positive affirmations and memories. Spend time with other people who have a positive outlook on life. Take some time to be of service to others who are less fortunate than yourself. 9. Begin to gather evidence for the turnaround. As you continue the turnaround process, begin to look for physical evidence that the process is working. Start with the mindset that the evidence is there already and your job is to find it like a detective, rather than wondering whether there is any evidence or not. Evidence can come in all sizes and it all counts. There's no piece of evidence too small to claim. Keep looking as you continue to set the intention that all is in divine order, even when it does, and always look or feel that way. 10. Debrief. Declare the accomplishment, and celebrate. At some point you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the turnaround is complete. Before moving on, take some time to acknowledge what you've learned from the experience. Declare to yourself the accomplishment and celebrate it. You've made major progress along your purposeful path. Celebrate, celebrate, dance to the music. I find it interesting that although the United States is considered by many to be the most prosperous country in the world and the most prosperous society in history, so many of us are unhappy. It has also been my observation that an increasing number of us are awakening to this fact, and are searching for ways to be happier. Of course, there are volumes written about the subject, so this top 10 list isn't intended to be the final word on the subject. But, taking some of these suggestions to heart and putting them into action will move you well down the road to inner happiness. Stop in an interview I once conducted with small business guru Michael Gerber, author of The E-Myth Revisited. I asked him what one key step or strategy would he give to listeners to put into place in their businesses that would make the biggest difference. He summarized it in one word: stop. Stop and take the time to really think through what you're doing. The advice is just as sound in our personal lives. Most of our lives are simply running out of control. It's like we have our pedal to the metal, and we don't know how to take our foot off. Or perhaps we're afraid of what will happen if we do. I'm more concerned about what will happen if we don't. Life is in a straight path of a drag race. It has plenty of twists and turns, some of them sharp hairpins. Imagine trying to drive a car along a twisty mountain road without ever taking your foot off of the gas, a sure setup for disaster. The same is true in life. So, start getting access to a greater degree of inner happiness by stopping first. Sounds paradoxical? Maybe. But it's a vital first step. What if you set your alarm to awaken just 15 minutes earlier, but instead of jumping out of bed, you simply prop yourself up in bed and lay there quietly contemplating your day and how it the opportunity to live and express your purpose in each moment and with each action? What if you set your intention to be more awake and aware for the rest of the day, and to check in with your inner guidance and to allow universal love to shape your day. Try it and see if it does, and add a depth of happiness and contentment to your life. What is inner happiness? One of the most important reasons to stop the frenetic pace of your life for a while is so you can begin to answer the question, what is inner happiness? Once you've spent a bit of time on that one, go on to these questions. What will bring me inner happiness? How will I know when I've experienced a new level of inner happiness? How will it look and feel? What will be happening or not happening in my life? Where would I want to experience more inner happiness? At work? At home? With my family and friends? These are all useful, purposeful, pondering questions that you can start your day with as you spend just 15 minutes exploring these, and then continue to ask for answers as you go about your day. If you want a little more structure and support, you can create a reminder for yourself. For example, every time you see the color purple, ask yourself the pondering question for the day. Or, whenever you hear the phone ring, or set your wristwatch timer to go off every hour. Such questions can powerfully shape your day, so ask away. Shift your attitude to one of observability. This is a new word that a participant in one of my workshops coined. I like what happens from combining deserve with ability. We are all able to shift our attitude to one of deserving happiness. And if you aren't, then there may be some deep-seated emotional blocks that need to be addressed through counseling or some other channels. This step is summarized in one of my favorite sayings: suffering is optional. You deserve to be happy. You might move this forward by asking yourself, if I did deserve to be happy, what would it be like? Who would I need to be someone that is happy? What would I be doing that is a natural expression of being happy? What could I eliminate from my life that would result in a deeper sense of happiness for my life? Be willing to be surprised by the answers that come to you, and decide to act upon the ones that call most strongly to you. Handle life details once and for all. The details I'm referring to are those basic needs that we all have: food, clothing, shelter, love, etc. Is it possible to have inner peace while your outer life is in turmoil? Yes, actually I believe that it is possible, but I also believe it's a lot more challenging and so unnecessary. It's difficult to take the time to contemplate what will bring you true inner happiness when your stomach keeps growling from lack of food. Go take care of your stomach and other needs, but watch out for the need A, someday syndrome, that says you have to do X, Y, or Z first before you can be happy. Remember, taking care of your basic needs is a good place to bring inner happiness to your life as you eat. Taking care of your needs. It's hard for us to truly make a significant difference in the world if we eat constantly being tripped up by the breakdowns that occur when our basic needs aren't being met. At the same time, many of us have allowed a lot of wants and whims to slip onto the basic needs list, and consequently, we attempting to live much higher on the hog under the false supposition that we have so many basic needs. Cable TV with Showtime and the Disney Channel is not a basic need. Neither is having the newest model luxury automobile, or taking exotic vacations twice a year. Simplify your life by identifying what your basic needs truly are. Eliminate what detracts from happiness. These next two steps are so simple in nature that their power can easily be missed. If you want inner happiness or pretty much anything else, eliminate from your life that which detracts from it. This includes those emotional blocks I spoke about earlier. It may also include the elimination of toxic relationships, clutter around your home, dissatisfying work, excess weight, etc. This is one of the places where the "oh, do you eat an elephant?" principle comes in handy. Just like you eat an elephant one bite at a time, you can eliminate that which detracts from your happiness one step, or one item, or one relationship at a time. And with each step, take the time to acknowledge your progress, thus adding to your experience of happiness along the way. Add in more of what makes you happy as you eliminate stuff that makes you unhappy or detracts from your happiness. You make room for adding what will contribute to your happiness. This can work on many different levels. For example, when I cleaned and organized my office and eliminated many of the file folders that surrounded my desk, there was room to add some beauty to my office decor. I now have a small fountain on top of my oak filing cabinet, a decorative aquarium on the library table, and several plants including a Christmas cactus which is blooming beautifully as of this writing. But when I was surrounded by clutter, there was no room for these beautiful additions. My surroundings now contribute to my happiness. What can you eliminate from your environment that will open up space, both inner and out, for making additions that will enhance the quality of your life? Find your balance between inner work and outer expression. I'm currently reading a wonderful book by Wayne Muller entitled Sabbath, restoring the sacred rhythm of rest. The following passage points to this important step to happiness. This noise of our lives made us deaf, unable to hear when we are called, or from which direction. Henry, a friend of Muller's and a priest, said our lives have become absurd, because in the word absurd we find the Latin word absurdus, which means deaf. In our spiritual life we need to listen to God, who constantly speaks but whom we seldom hear in our hurried defense. On the other hand, Henry was fond of reminding me that the word obedient comes from the Latin word audire, which means to listen. Henry believed that a spiritual life was a pilgrimage from absurdity to obedience, from deafness to listening. If you're living a loud life of absurdity, it's important to add in moments of peaceful rest and solitude so you can listen and hear life's call to you. Keep watering the roots of your happiness as you identify what provides you with inner happiness. It's important to keep identifying it. While this may sound obvious, it's surprising how often people stop doing what they know works. If watering the roots produces luscious fruit, then keep watering the roots. If devoting the first hour of each day to quiet meditation and reflection helps you stay centered and present throughout your day and that makes you happy, then don't drop that special time out of your routine. Spread it around. Happiness doesn't have to be a one-person show. While it may begin with you and end with you, in between are plenty of opportunities to spread it around to others. You will probably find that spreading it around simply adds to your own experience of joy and satisfaction, so don't be stingy with it. Acknowledge the hello and move on. From time to time even the happiest among us will have occasion for sadness. If we didn't, we wouldn't be able to fully appreciate our happiness. So, when those days come along, embrace them. Allow yourself to be present to whatever is there. Just know that you don't need to stay stuck in the shadows. Acknowledge them, and when you're ready, move on. You have finally clarified what your life is about. You know who you are and what your life purpose is. You have even created a life purpose statement. Now what? How do you get the most out of the work you've done? How do you have your life purpose shape your life? This list will help guide you along the path to living a life on purpose. Begin to recognize yourself as the life purpose you've clarified. When you first do the work to determine your life purpose, you don't fully know yourself as that person purpose. It's as if someone suddenly gave you a new name. If a few days later somebody called you by that name, it is unlikely you'd respond because you still know yourself by your old name. Begin to practice knowing yourself as your life purpose. To know yourself as your life purpose, develop one or more simple purpose practices. These may be as simple as reading your life purpose statement aloud each morning, or creating a little ceremony that will help you to be fully present to your life purpose. The important thing is to do it regularly and with thoughtfulness, and to be careful it doesn't evolve into a habit that is simply done by routine. Begin sharing your life purpose with others. While your life purpose may reside within you, where it will truly flourish is out in the world in the listening of others. If you don't share it, it won't be long before it goes out of existence, or becomes only a distant memory, something you once said but that ultimately made no lasting difference in your life. Create different ways to say your life purpose. Practice sharing your life purpose in ways that will fit your audience. Find ways to share it so the essence of your life purpose is captured even though it might be said with different words. Start having your actions be shaped by your life purpose. One of the easiest and most effective ways to do this is to create purpose projects in various areas of your life. Purpose projects are expressions of your life purpose because they come directly from your purpose. They are what takes the possibility or vision of a life purpose and puts it into reality. Therefore, a purpose project will have specific results or outcomes that can be measured. While you're interested in producing these results, purpose projects are really about you expressing yourself as your life purpose. Allow your life purpose to continue to evolve. As you practice these steps, your purpose will begin to take on a life of its own. Since it isn't something carved in stone, it will evolve to the next level over time. Allow your intuitive nature to guide you along this evolutionary path. Involve others in your life purpose. As you become more comfortable with sharing and living your life purpose, you will become a powerful, attractive force in the world because people who are living their life on purpose are very attractive. As this happens, resources will be drawn to you that will allow you to continue to express your life purpose. Some of those resources will be other people, who will either have a similar life purpose or see the possibility of expressing their own life purpose with you. Enjoy the company. Allow the stuff of your current life that doesn't support your life purpose to drop away. While there's an additive effect to life purpose, there is also a subtracting effect as well. A lot of your life up to this point has been shaped by your inherited purpose, that fear-based drive for survival. So, much of what's been in your life to support your inherited purpose will begin to drop away. This may include people who were in your life to support your inherited purpose, jobs that were based on your inherited purpose, and many other things. While this can be disturbing and disruptive, it helps to recognize this process for what it is. It's your life continuing to be shaped by your life purpose. You don't need to force this natural process. Let it evolve. Trust the universe to provide you with many opportunities to express your life purpose. There is a certain flow to living on purpose. A lot of the hard work and struggle will start to disappear from your life if you let it. It becomes more about being who you are as your life purpose and less about all the things there are to do. You may find that many of the things you've been working on have only been distractions to keep you from your true calling. This could include broken relationships, miscommunications, integrity issues, etc. As you live true to your purpose, trust the universe to work with you in resolving these distractions. Your job, first and foremost, is to continue to live true to the purpose you've declared you would be. How about a midpoint check-in? Congratulating for making it this far along the spiral. You deserve to pat yourself on the back. After that, why not take a minute and share what you getting from the book with us? Email us at lifeonpurposeinstitute@admin@lifeonpurpose.com. If you so incline, you can go ahead and write a quick review of the book here. http://www.amzn.com/bo05gojkb. Simplicity has been a core value of mine for many years, which probably explains why, when I discovered the voluntary simplicity movement in the early 1990s, it resonated so deeply with me. I became one of its chief advocates, so much so that the editors of Yoga Journal contracted with me to write an article on the subject. The ensuing piece not only became my first cover story but also served as the launching pad for Life on Purpose Institute, Incorporated. So it seems befitting to start this section with that article. Though originally written in 1996, I believe it just as pertinent today, maybe even more so. In Lewis Carroll's childhood classic, Through the Looking Glass, one of Alice's misadventures in Wonderland is with the Red Queen, who takes her on a wild run through the countryside. But no matter how fast Alice runs, she can't seem to get anywhere. Finally, breathless from her efforts, the Queen allows her to rest long enough for Alice to comment, "Everything is just as it was." To which the Queen replies, "Here, you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that." Several years ago, I remembered Alice's predicament, as I stood on the deck outside my home, gazing into a meandering stream threading its way through my backyard. I thought Alice must have felt similar to how I was feeling about my life. I was physically exhausted and emotionally out of breath, running as fast as I could to keep up with an out-of-control lifestyle of my own making. As I gazed across the wooded lot and listened to the bubbling of the water across the rocks, I realized the scene before me had been much of the reason I had purchased the home about a year before. At the time, I had imagined spending countless hours out on the deck, basking in the sun, watching the seasons roll by, but the seasons had rolled by without me. I'd not so much as stepped foot on the deck in all that time. I'd been too busy working 50-60 hours a week at my veterinary practice so I could pay the mortgage on the house, not to mention keeping up with 2 car payments, and keeping the 3 credit cards paid down. Like Alice, I realized something was wrong with this picture. I was running as fast as I could just to keep up. I'd like to say that out of that realization I put the house on the market, traded the cars in for older models without payments, cut up my credit cards, and started living a simpler life. Unfortunately, it wasn't that easy. I hadn't suffered enough yet. It wasn't until my second marriage ended in divorce, and I came close to burnout in my profession before the lesson finally hit home. However, the seed of an idea was planted that day, many years ago, and though it took a while, the harvest of a simple life my new wife and I have designed is sweet and well worth the wait. The complexities of simple living. My personal journey to a simpler life was motivated by 2 factors: fatigue and frustration. I'd been on the fast track ever since taking my first part-time job at the age of 15 working at the library downtown. I held my nose to the proverbial grindstone through junior and senior high school, being sure to make the types of grades that would prove to the world that I was worthy of attending veterinary college. I even managed to rush through undergraduate school, completing a 4-year pre-vet program in less than 3. By the time the mid-80s rolled around, I'd been hoofing it hot and heavy for over 20 years, and by American standards, I was a success. Yet despite all the success trappings, I kept thinking, Is this all there is? My frustration grew out of a lack of finding meaningful ways to express my natural creative interests. Although my art teachers in high school had urged me to continue studying art in college, I would hear none of it. I knew artists starved and veterinarians didn't. Yet, by the time I found myself standing on my deck contemplating the similarities between Alice's predicament and my own, I was starved creatively and spiritually. Selling my veterinary practice in 1989 to become a freelance writer seemed like an excellent way to take a long break from running as fast as I could just to stay in the same place. I envisioned sitting on my deck tapping away on the keyboard for a couple hours each day, but when I realized how much money the deck was costing me, I decided if the little nest egg from the sale of my practice was going to last more than 6 months, I'd better find a less expensive deck to sit upon. Although at the time I hadn't even heard the term voluntary simplicity, these moves to simplify my life just felt right, even though some of my friends and family thought I must have brain damage from breathing too much anesthetic while performing surgery. About this time, Anna and I met and fell in love, and not only supported the career change but had a small townhouse complete with a deck. I rented out my home in order to reduce expenses and paid Anne rent on her spare bedroom. Could life be this easy? I thought. On this occasion the answer was no. I discovered over the next year that making a living as a freelance writer wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. After a year of rejection letters and watching my savings rapidly dwindle, I jumped at the chance when a good friend of mine offered me the opportunity to come to work as a business consultant. The regular salary allowed us to move back to the larger home and lease the smaller one. 2 years and 1 marriage later, I realized I had come full circle, once again working a 50 to 60-hour job that paid well but didn't give me the time for my creative outlet. A pivotal time came with the arrival of my daughter, Amber. While she was still an infant, I slowed down long enough to notice the families around me. With most of our friends, both the husband and wife worked, and the kids were farmed out to overflowing daycare centers. Neither Anne nor I wanted that for Amber. It had taken me over 40 years to get around to having a child, and I wasn't interested in being an absentee father. Still, it took me several weeks before I built up enough nerve to discuss my thoughts with Anne. After all, I had a secure job complete with an excellent salary and long-term benefits. So what if I wasn't happy? I was a good provider. Finally, one afternoon while driving home from visiting friends, I poured my feelings out, ending with, "I think I should quit my job and go back to writing. What do you think?" To my astonishment, Anne replied, "I agree." Instantly, a great burden lifted from my shoulders, and we started making plans for right-sizing our life to fit our new direction. After struggling to keep 2 different houses for over 2 years, we sold the larger house within a few short months, in the process consolidating 2 houses of furniture into one. The more we sold and gave away, the more freedom we experienced. Looking back, I realize now that there was a certain chicken or the egg phenomenon to simplifying my life. There was an inner as well as outer process that seemed to work simultaneously or was so interwoven that it's difficult to tell which came first. Richard Gregg, who coined the term voluntary simplicity back in 1936, points to this outward slowing down process that frees up one time to pursue the inner work that continues the cycle. One of the first things our decision to slow down gave us was time to take long walks with Amber in the stroller. Time to get to know each other better and to explore our values. Fortunately, we discovered we shared many of the same values. With each discovery our relationship grew stronger. Gregg, himself an interesting mixture of Eastern and Western cultures, having lived in India as a student of Gandhi as well as attending Harvard, describes this inner and outer work in this way. Voluntary simplicity involves both inner and outer condition. It means singleness of purpose, sincerity and honesty within, as well as avoidance of exterior clutter, of many possessions irrelevant to the chief purpose of life. It means an ordering and guiding of our energy and our desires, a partial restraint in some directions in order to secure greater abundance of life in other directions. It involves a deliberate organization of life for a purpose. While I wasn't sure what my life purpose was yet, the urge to write was too strong to ignore, and it became increasingly clear that we were willing to reduce our material wants so I could focus more on my writing, and so we would have time together as a family. And learned from reading the Tightwad Gazette by Amy DeSizin that we could save significantly by buying our food in bulk and storing it under our bed. We cut back on eating out as well as our movie going. Instead we waited a few months for the movies we wanted to see to come out on video. Then we discovered if we waited a few more months, we could find the same videos for rent at a local discount store for 1/3 the price. Each discovery was a small victory for our new lifestyle. Although these steps might sound like a move to deprivation and austerity, we didn't find it to be so. That is the greatest misconception about what simple living is about, says Bo Lozoff, co-founder along with his wife, Sita, of the Human Kindness Foundation. The Lozoffs have practiced voluntary simplicity for close to 30 years, after living on a boat while in their 20s and realizing the joys of such simple living. If someone approaches it in the path of deprivation way, they will feel poor, says Bo. The whole point of giving things up is that you feel the richness that results, a psychic release of just not having a bunch of stuff, and not having to be on this constant treadmill to keep the stuff. Simplicity is a great joy, not a punishment or stern discipline. Meanwhile, we continued making inner discoveries as well, including that we shared an intense interest in further developing our spirituality. A whole new dimension of simple living began to unfold. Having turned my back on my Southern Baptist background around the 4th grade, I had missed Jesus' message to not store up treasures on earth, but to share our wealth and ourselves with others. I've since learned that Jesus wasn't the only spiritual leader who advocated the virtues of simple living. Buddha also urged a balanced path between indulgence and deprivation, and Confucius, Lao Tzu, Mohammed, and many others also taught the value of simplicity as well as finding a balance between the inner and outer aspects of our lives. The idea of simple living isn't new in our American culture, dating back at least to the days of Thoreau's 2+ years at Walden Pond, as well as to the frugal, self-reliant lifestyles of the Puritans. The idea has, at times, struggled with its own identity crisis, being called many different names including the frugality phenomena, creative simplicity, and more recently downsizing, right-sizing, and downshifting. Although we weren't sure what to call what we were doing either, we did notice that the more steps we took to simplify, including purging the clutter around us through yard sales and through donating boxes upon boxes of clothes, knickknacks, and household items to the Salvation Army, the more time we had to explore what truly satisfied us. We began volunteering some of our newly found time to organizations and causes we believed in. Again, many of our friends didn't understand what we were doing. "You spend that much time working without pay?" they'd ask incredulously. We tried to explain that, although our pay could not be socked away in the bank, we were being more than adequately compensated by being able to contribute to others. Some understood, others walked away shaking their heads. In this way, we slowly found ourselves encircled with people who understood and supported our efforts, and we started to notice there were more people interested in living a simple life than we'd first imagined. Then one day, while reading a book review in the newspaper, I found out that we had become DOMOs. According to the book, Trash Cash, Fizbos, and Flatliners, a dictionary of today's words, DOMOs are downwardly mobile professionals, typically under 40, who abandon a successful or promising career to concentrate on more meaningful or spiritual activities. It was a relief to realize that there were enough other people out there doing what we were doing to require recognition by name. Down with yuppies, up with DOMOs. Despite having trouble coming up with a term that satisfies everyone, we may look back at the 1990s as the decade when simple living finally caught on as an idea whose time has come. According to one study, Yearning for Balance, prepared for the Merck Family Fund by the Harwood Group, the road to Demotum is filled with former yuppie baby boomers, with 72% of people aged 40-49 agreeing with the survey statement, "I would like to simplify my life." Of course, that doesn't mean everyone who would like to simplify has taken the necessary steps, but many of them appear to be moving in that direction. 28% of all the respondents said that in the last 5 years, they had voluntarily made changes in their lives that resulted in making less money, not including those who had taken a regularly scheduled retirement. The outer roads of simplicity. It's not a cookie-cutter lifestyle, says Vicki Robin of the New Roadmap Foundation and co-author of the book, Your Money or Your Life, referring to the varied approaches people have taken to simplifying their lives. Vicki and her partner, Joe Dominguez, have lived for over 20 years on about $6,000 of annual investment income each, even though their book has been a top seller since being published in 1992. The proceeds of the book go to organizations that promote a sustainable future for our country and the world, such as the Northwest Earth Institute, which offers classes on voluntary simplicity. Along with Joe and Vicki, many other DOMOs are simplifying their lives by becoming debt-free. According to John Komuda, president and founder of Financial Independence Network Limited, Incorporated (FINL), the yuppie model of the 1980s has turned up empty for many people living it, and the next generation that would be expected to step into that lifestyle is rejecting it, saying, "No, these people aren't happy." Up until a few years ago, Komuda led such a lifestyle, working in a top-paying position for a company that was doing very well. I thought, this is it, we've achieved the American dream. At the time, Komuda drove a leased Corvette, his wife a leased Oldsmobile Regency Brougham, and they were making payments on an airplane they kept at the airport not far from their large home. "We did it all on credit," admits Komuda, "but we could make all the payments. We were not being irresponsible in terms of our culture's norms." Then the company Komuda worked for suddenly went out of business, and he found himself without any income. "It was the worst 2 years of my life, and also the best 2 years of my life because it burned into me an understanding that I was not a success. I didn't own anything. I was renting a lifestyle, and when I could no longer afford the rent payment, I was evicted from the lifestyle." Out of that experience, Komuda developed a system that allows people to get completely out of debt, including their mortgage, in about 5 to 7 years, and FINL was born. Even though Komuda's company has experienced rapid growth and was listed as one of Incorporated magazine's 500 fastest growing companies in 1994, he continues to run the company with no debt. Komuda's approach to debt elimination is simple. Start by cutting up your credit cards. When I heard this, it made sense. If you have a patient who is bleeding to death, first stop the bleeding. But I found doing it not so easy. What if an emergency arises? I'll need the credit, was just one of several excuses. When I listened to myself justify keeping my cards intact, I realized how hooked I was on them. Instead of going cold turkey, I weaned myself off of them, keeping one card safely tucked away in a safe deposit box to avoid impulse spending. Once you've stopped the bleeding, Komuda's financial freedom strategy has 3 major stages. Pay off ALL debt first, operate strictly on a cash basis, and then focus all available cash on wealth building. A 4th stage that Komuda claims more and more Americans are choosing is to move to a cheaper, safer, and more enjoyable location. This was the case for Frank Lebring and Wanda Urbanska, who acknowledged they were fast-trackers living in Los Angeles. Frank was a successful, though harried, screenwriter and freelance journalist, and Wanda a newspaper reporter for the Examiner. But after 7 years of LA living, they realized they were miserable. It reached a point that the marriage wasn't going to make it without more time for each other and other pursuits, says Levering. When Frank's father, who owned an orchard in Virginia, suffered a serious heart attack and none of the other 6 kids expressed an interest in taking over the orchard, Frank and Wanda decided to move back east. While they were fortunate to have such a place to move to, the orchard also came with a debt of over $100,000 and was going downhill. "Those 2 factors forced us to simplify," admits Levering, "and with such a large debt, all of their spare cash went to paying it off. We were looking for ways to cut costs and save money. In a number of areas we started cutting costs and found out that we liked it." After moving into an old farmhouse, they decided, rather than go deeper in debt to furnish it, to live with what they had and economize wherever they could. "We discovered that we liked the whole process, and we were feeling better about ourselves, despite the hard work." This enjoyment was partly because they often worked together, which gave them back time for their relationship, time which had been missing in Los Angeles. Since they were both writers, they eventually decided to write about their experiences, and co-authored Simple Living, One Couple's Search for a Better Life. Urban Simplicity. Although many people have found that the moving to the country approach works well for them, it's not a necessity. Jeff Beal, his wife, and his child, live in the Los Angeles area because that is what works for their careers. As a songwriter and singer, respectively, the Beals prefer the city setting, although they do feel that moving to a country setting may be in their future. "Because I'm an artist, some of the things that mean the most to me as a composer don't generate the most amount of money. I'm concerned with having a lifestyle that isn't so extravagant that I have to sell my artistic soul to support my lifestyle." The Beals have managed to live simply despite their urban setting by becoming more conscious of what they spend their money on. Rather than trading in their cars every couple of years for new models, they've chosen to keep their older ones around the house. They're much more likely to try to fix a broken appliance than to rush out and buy a new one. as well as making their own home repairs rather than hiring someone. Avoiding eating out is another place where they've been able to save substantially. People in LA tend to eat out a lot, observes Beale. We've found that when we do it less, it's more enjoyable when we do go out. Penny Unuba is another example of someone living the simple life in the city. She quit her job in 1988 to live her life the way she wanted. She rented one of her bedrooms to someone and sold her car because public transportation and friends made it possible to live without one. She volunteers her time with an organization that in turn pays her health insurance. In this way, she has designed a life far different from the get-ahead treadmill of her previous career in microcomputer sales. Unuba says one of the side benefits of living a simple lifestyle is the depth and closeness of her friendships. Although it was not something she expected, it is one of the greatest joys in her life. Simple living gives people a fresh set of eyes to look at old habitual patterns to discover for themselves empowered new ways of doing things, observes Vicki Robin. It's the joy that comes from that awakening that leads to tremendous savings and feelings of freedom and control. One of Vicki's favorite stories comes from a family who followed the steps outlined in their book to simplify their lives. After following the program for a while, they suddenly noticed they were not using their dining room, preferring to eat their meals in the family room. So, they sold the dining room furniture. Then, they converted the room into a spare bedroom and had a couple move in who traded room and board for yard work, housework, and childcare. The room became known as their $6,000 room because they calculated they had been spending that much for those services. Such creative ideas become the norm when people begin to take back their lives and have time for what's truly important to them. The inner roads to simplicity. As Mark Birch points out in his book, Simplicity, Notes, Stories and Exercises for Developing Unimaginable Wealth, simplicity starts with a fundamental shift in consciousness. Otherwise, you will continue to be uptight, worried, and stressed, whether you have a lot of possessions or you have none at all. For Birch, simple living does not begin with discarding personal possessions and then searching for alternative, simpler ways of meeting the same needs. Rather, the technology begins with the cultivation of mindfulness. As we grow in our capacity for an enjoyment of mindfulness, then the outer aspects of our lives eventually and progressively come into alignment with this changed consciousness. As Ann and I continued along our path of simple living, we found this process occurring naturally and with little effort. Even though we enjoyed living in Greensboro, NC, a mid-sized city in the central part of the state, we found we shared a hidden fantasy of one day living in the mountains, so we began taking weekend trips exploring likely locations. In the process, we found the mountains soothing to our inner nature. It gave us both a feeling like we had come home, even though neither of us had ever lived in the mountains. One area in particular beckoned to us, but we heard from everyone we talked to that it was a resort and retirement community and far too expensive an area to settle in. Still, we couldn't get it out of our minds. We each sat with it, meditating and praying. A few months later, upon returning from a spiritual retreat in Alabama, I swung out of my way to drive through the area once more. Within less than 30 minutes of returning to our favorite spot, I discovered the perfect house for sale. On further investigation, we found that since the home had a lower-level apartment which could be rented at seasonal rates, we could live exactly where we wanted to in a larger home for significantly less money. It even had not one, but 2 decks. Such synchronicity seems to run hand in hand with the mindfulness that Birch speaks about. The inner knowing becomes clearer as one becomes more focused in life. Another aspect of the inner journey of simplicity is the willingness to simplify mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, to let go of old ways of thinking that no longer serve you, old emotional wounds of regret, jealousy, and resentments. As Birch points out, it also means for many of us, letting go of what we think we know about God. I had to let go of huge hunks of stuff that I was taught in the name of religion, says Birch, who was raised as a Roman Catholic. Over the years, I have come to realize as I simplify my outer world, that my inner world deserves equal time. A simpler life provides this time to focus, to stop, breath, and reflect on what needs to be released as well as to examine what is really important. Whether this is done in a quiet mountain setting, at the local coffee house, or privately in one's home, the opportunity to reflect upon one's life is an important one. When one takes the time to do this, one of the things someone realizes is that there is a close relationship between simplicity and spiritual growth. Often, it is also this part that terrifies many people. What happens if I turn off the TV and there's silence? Then what? Asks Birch. That idea is so anxiety-provoking that usually we keep the TV on, or go to the beach, or get a new car, or stay busy and in motion. But if I turn off the TV and it's quiet, then what do I do? Where will I point my mind, and what will I do with my will? The spiritual writers tell us that if you will stay with that, stay in that quiet, in fact, enter it more deeply, and you move beyond feeling anxious, and be in the silence and emptiness of that moment, then grace and God be willing, you will know God a little more. Ernest Kallenbach, author of Living Cheaply with Style and the classic, Ecotopia, says it more bluntly. I don't think it's possible to live a rich spiritual life if you are very concerned with buying and selling as the main thing about your life. Leading a reflective life requires you to detach from a lot of petty, passing human concerns, and consumerism is about the most petty and passing human concern that we're exposed to. To my knowledge, all known religions, including Christianity, recommends, not austerity, but simplicity as a spiritual discipline, continues Kallenbach. As it says in the Bible, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. I think we can translate that pretty directly into modern terms. If you are caught up in the consumer economy to the extent that it impoverishes the rest of your spiritual being, you certainly aren't going to obtain any kind of enlightenment. If, however, one uses the practice of simplicity to free up some time, then uses that time to deepen spiritually and emotionally, it tends to motivate the person to simplify further, which leads to more free time. For some, this newly found free time may lead to a renewed level of creativity. For others, the time may be spent more introspectively in meditation or other spiritual practices. Still others may find their time spent in service of their fellow human beings. You'll find what your time is for once you start to have it, observes Vicki Robbins. Simple living in Gaia. Many who choose to live a simpler lifestyle, do so, at least in part, because it allows them to walk gentler upon the face of Mother Earth. According to the Yearning for Balance study, environmental sustainability is an important question for many Americans, with 86% of the survey respondents saying they are concerned with the quality of the environment, and 93% of them admitting that an underlying cause of environmental problems is that the way we live produces too much waste. The level of consumption that we identify with success is utterly unsustainable, says John Robbins, author of Diet for a New America and Reclaiming Our Health, Exploding the Medical Myth and Embracing the Source of True Healing. H.J. Kramer. We're gobbling up the world. Many Americans are still coming to grips with the fact that the world's resource base is limited. More and more, living simply is not only a good idea, it is becoming paramount to our survival. Prosperity based on pollution is not prosperity, continues Robbins. It's short-term profit, long-term disaster. Robbins, the heir apparent to the Baskin-Robbins ice cream fortune until he walked away from it at the age of 21, has an interesting perspective on the affluent lifestyle so long held as the American dream. I had the privilege of growing up in a very wealthy family. Among my parents' friends were some of the wealthiest people in the world, and, I must tell you in all honesty, they were also some of the most neurotic people in the world. So, I've had the opportunity to learn firsthand that acquiring things can be a total distraction. What we've done in our society is to make greed into a lifestyle. We've almost made it into a religion. In his book, Living Cheaply with Style, Kallenbach points out that, as with other aspects of simple living, leading an ecologically responsible life doesn't mean self-sacrifice or austerity. It does, in fact, result in a richer, fuller, longer and healthier life. One way to understand this is to consider what Kallenbach calls the green triangle. The 3 points of the triangle are environment, health, and saving money, with the basic connecting principle being, anytime you do something beneficial for one of them, you will almost inevitably also do something beneficial for the other two, whether you're aiming to or not. Kallenbach claims this principle holds true 96-98% of the time. He cites food intake as an example. The American culture is obsessed right now with eating less fat in their diet. Interestingly enough, eating a lower fat diet also saves you, sometimes astonishing, amounts of money, says Kallenbach. And of course, it's also good for the earth since raising cattle is ecologically destructive. Dick and Jean Roy are two people who have not only promised to tread lightly on the earth but are also teaching thousands of others how to do the same through their non-profit organization, the Northwest Earth Institute NWEI in Portland, Oregon. For over 20 years, the Roys have held true to their promise. Despite their six-figure income from Dick's job as managing partner of one of the largest law firms in the Northwest, a position he retired from in 1993 to work full-time as a volunteer at the Institute. NWEI offers 3 discussion courses in workplaces, churches, and schools. Deep ecology and related topics, voluntary simplicity, and the bi-original perspective, discovering your natural community. Says Roy about the voluntary simplicity course, once you've gone through the course, it's hard to live in denial. Fundamentally, people find that simplicity is taking control, and through simplicity you enrich your life. It's hard not to come to that conclusion. Unfortunately, according to the Yearning for Balance study, although Americans realize something must be done, many are waiting for somebody else to act first, their neighbors, big corporations, or the government. Others feel that technology will be our environmental savior. As one participant of the study says, technology will make your life easier and cheaper and environmentally safer as it develops. I don't think simplifying your life is going to do one bit. If such thinking persists in our culture, we may be in for a rude awakening within the not-too-distant future. Probably in the 2020s we, as a planet, are going to hit an ecological wall, predicts Dwayne Elgin, author of The Awakening Earth, Exploring the Evolution of Human Culture and Consciousness, and Voluntary Simplicity, which is considered a classic by many people pursuing a simpler life. Elgin has chosen to take an earn-as-you-go approach to simple living, rather than building up a nest egg and living off the interest. I don't think there is going to be some magical transformation within the year 2000. There might be a TV special, but that's about it. If we have not prepared for this, in terms of evolving our culture and consciousness, and in terms of creating tools of mass communication so we can talk our way through it, we're going to descend into resource wars, massive civil unrest, and a huge die-off of people on the planet. The combination of the ecological adversity and the psychological and political problems could send us into an evolutionary detour. The next millennium, global community, or the next dark age. In November 1992, the Union of Concerned Scientists met in Washington, D.C., where 1,600 of the senior scientists, including a majority of the living Nobel laureates, endorsed a statement entitled, World Scientists' Warning to Humanity. It stated, a great change in our stewardship of the Earth and the life on it is required, if vast human misery is to be avoided and our global home on this planet is not to be irretrievably mutilated. These are decisive, pivotal times for the evolution of humankind, points out Elgin, who, after 25 years of studying the situation, says, I'm not all that heartened by the swift mobilization of the body politic to respond to all this. I thinking we're sitting on our hands, for the most part. But humanity's future has not yet been engraved in stone. We still have time to make the difficult decisions that lay before us. Necessity is, after all, the mother of invention. Although our future is uncertain, we need not be paralyzed by despair. Interestingly enough, arising with the challenges we face are the solutions, both in technology and in consciousness. Building a sustainable future is well within our grasp if we are willing to take the steps necessary. In The Awakening Earth, Elgin says 2 of our priorities that need to be addressed are, breaking the cultural hypnosis of consumerism and developing and maintaining ecological ways of living. But perhaps our most important priority is the creation of compelling visions of a sustainable future. We cannot consciously build a future that we have not imagined, writes Elgin. Many people can visualize a future of worsening crisis, ecological destruction, famines, civil unrest, and material limitations, but few have a positive vision of the future. Without a hopeful future to work toward, people will tend to withdraw into a protected world for themselves and focus on the short run. Our destiny has never been more in our hands. If we live in a complex world, it is one of our own design. Perhaps it is time to create a new vision of a sustainable, simpler, more spiritually directed world. A world based on our mutually shared intrinsic values rather than one based on the value of a dollar. I believe the universe is on our side, deeply committed to our success while at the same time completely unattached to the outcome. We each have the opportunity to choose, moment by moment, what kind of world we bring forth. Perhaps we will find after so many years of running so hard just to stay in the same place, that there really isn't anywhere to get to. It could be that in slowing down we'll find that we've been living in the land of plenty all along. Now, it's time to start taking care of it. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to complain and how little positive results come from it, especially if you remain stuck in it? Complaining is a favorite practice of the fear, lack and struggle-based inherited purpose. The more we complain, the more we allow the inherited purpose to shape our lives. However, we can use the contrast we experience that often leads to complaining as a pivot point rather than continuing to wallow in being upset. A powerful antidote to complaining is being grounded in gratitude. When we look at what we are grateful for, we pivot from the fear, lack and struggle of the inherited purpose and begin to move into the place of universal love, abundance, and flow. In fact, with a little practice we can minimize the need to complain and in many cases start by being grounded in gratitude. For example, recently Ann and I viewed a documentary about electric cars and realized that owning such a vehicle would be consistent with our value to be as earth-friendly as possible. At the same time, we are not ready to simply rush out and trade in our van and Mercedes that are sitting in our driveway. Now, it would be easy and fairly natural for me to begin to find fault with our current vehicles, and of course, and take any time before I be complaining about them. You might even say that it's human nature to have to find fault with something that we are no longer interested in having in our life as a way to justify wanting something else. And the more we want something else, the stronger the tendency to complain about what we presently have. But an important part of the inful abundance is catching those tendencies that really don't serve us and minimizing their effects. So, instead of complaining about the fact that my Mercedes only gets 20 miles to the gallon instead of some of the hybrids that are getting 50+ miles per gallon, or an electric car that does and even use gasoline, I can be grateful that my Mercedes gets 20 miles per gallon instead of 10 miles per gallon like some SUV. I can also be grateful that it has given me a dependable, comfortable ride, and there is any car payment since I purchased it by paying cash, which I also grateful for. So, the principle is simple: be grateful for what is as well as for what on its way. Observe the energy emotion accompanying your thoughts. Consider that our emotional states have attractive properties of differing degrees. Gratitude, being closely akin to universal love, has a strong attractive property, so the more grateful we are, the more effective we become in attracting what we truly desire into our lives. So, don't just think grateful thoughts, feel the emotion of gratitude, appreciation, and love to supercharge your ability to attract what you want into your life. Again, this may take some practice since complaining about what we don't like about our lives is such a common practice that many of our relationships are built upon it. For example, several years ago my wife, Anne, had a good friend who she would meet with for lunch on a regular basis. As Anne continued along her own spiritual and personal development path, she began to realize these regular lunch meetings were really just an opportunity for the two of them to complain about their lives, especially about how the men in their lives mistreated them. Note, this was before Anne met me. Since Anne was committed to moving beyond complaining and to consciously take responsibility for creating her life, and long before she realized that she and her friend had little in common, so she lovingly let go of the relationship, thus opening the way for new, more empowering and life-enhancing relationships to fill the void which was when she met me. Other powerful and positive emotions that can supercharge your ability to attract abundance in your life and that are closely akin to gratitude include passion, enthusiasm, playfulness, and joy. Infuse each and every day with healthy servings of these emotions and you will find an increasing amount of things to add to your gratitude list. Taking gratitude to the next level. Besides being grateful for what you already enjoy having in your life and what on its way that you are looking forward to receiving, can you generate gratitude for that which is in your life that you prefer not having around? If so, you taken the attractive power of gratitude to a whole new level. As I been purposefully playing with gratitude in my own life, I recently realized that I have a whole different experience around money coming into my life than the experience as it circulates out of my life. I began to wonder, what would life be like if I could be as grateful for the exit of money as I normally am with the inflow? Are you in debt? Maybe even substantially in debt? How can you be grateful for the amount of debt you have in your life? Are you grateful for the bills that pour in every month? Or do you come to bill paying time from a place of fear or lack? Let's look at these two examples. Anne and I have accumulated a fair amount of debt in our lives over the years, so I asked myself, what is there to be grateful about regarding being in debt? Here a partial list. I'm grateful for the good times and the great stuff that debt represents, including my warm, cozy, safe home that the mortgage has allowed me to live in for the last 15 years. That Anne and I have built a solid credit rating that indicates that there are people and companies that trust us to pay off what we owe. For the convenience of being able to use credit cards to handle much of our personal and business transactions. That Anne and I can do the work we love, that makes a difference in the world, and that also gives us the means to pay down our debt and to eventually eliminate it if we so choose. Now, your call to action assignment is to make a comprehensive list of what you can be grateful for around your monthly bills. Start with grateful. See where it takes you and be willing to be surprised and pleased. You live in and are an integral part of an infinitely abundant universe where there are unlimited resources of every kind and form readily available for the asking that we can utilize for the expression and fulfillment of our life purposes. Are you asking? W. Bradford Swift adapted from Purposeful Prayer. When you read the above quote, which was taken from the purposeful prayer I share with God each morning to create my day, what is your response? Does it resonate with your soul? Perhaps you hear yourself say something like, right. Looking at my checkbook, it certainly does and appear that my resources for living on purpose are infinite. Not even close. You may experience both of these, as part of the truth that lies in this statement resonates with your soul and spirit, while at the same the fear-based inherited purpose may also be inflamed by it. So, let's just for the moment try this statement on as though it really was true. What if we really do live in such a universe where there are ample and abundant resources readily available for the asking? I have found over the years of living as though this is true, that the more I try it on, the more real this reality becomes for me. It also allows me to look beyond the obvious for the resources. One of the key distinctions to make here is with the term resources. What does the word even mean? Well, if you look up the two parts that make up the word in the dictionary, enters, here what you will find, means different forms of enters means region. So what we end up with is resources mean different forms of the origin. What is the region we referring to? What is the origin of your life, of all of life, and of everything? It goes by many different names, some of the most common being God, higher power, spirit, etc. What are some of the many different forms these resources take? Well, one of the most obvious is money. What? Money? And money the root of all evil? No. Actually, the root of all evil is the love of money, or I would say viewing money as your master. See God or Mammon, who is the master of your life. But here the main point to try on. Money is only one form that our infinite resources take. Sure, it may be a particularly convenient form that can come in handy in many ways, but it hardly the only form. That why Robert Schuller often points out whenever someone is experiencing lack, never a money problem, it only an idea problem. This is because ideas are another powerful form that the infinite resources can take, and ideas can be readily converted into other forms including money. Think of it this way, water can take the different forms of liquid, ice, and water vapor, right? It's still water in all these different forms, and each form can have different uses. You probably prefer washing with a liquid than with a solid form. Water vapor as steam can power an engine, etc. So, what are some of the other forms that our infinite resources might take? How about people, connections, thoughts, emotions, synchronistic happenings, chance meetings, intuitive feelings? The list goes on. But also, how about this list of infinite resources, problems, challenges, upsets, breakdowns, disagreements, emergencies, tragedies? Are these some of the different forms that our infinite resources can take? Or are they just a junk of the universe? You get to say. I would suggest that if you hold these as just as valuable and important forms of the infinite resources of the universe, you will transform your experience of life, especially when these suddenly appear. Yes, even this interest that often stems from the inherited purpose provides very valuable resources to learn from and to point you in the direction of what you want to attract into your life. Try on this perspective for a few weeks and see what happens. Don't be surprised if you begin to realize that the world is a lot more malleable than you may have once thought. You may even start looking at your checkbook differently. If there does and appear to be enough of the money form of resources available, you won't need to be stopped by it. You can simply begin looking to see what other forms of resources are abundantly available that might be ready to convert into odd good green energy of money. Remember, it's never a money problem, only an idea problem. What are some of the ideas that have been pestering you that could be converted into a rich vein of financial resources? Which of those ideas would be fun to explore further, is consistent with your life purpose and would give you the opportunity to be of service to others? For example, that how Life on Purpose Institute was started. At the beginning of this book, I shared the fact that the idea for Life on Purpose Institute started with Project Purpose. Now, hear the rest of the story. The birth of Life on Purpose Institute. At Life on Purpose Institute, we believe everyone should follow their purpose and passion in life, and that doing so will never lead you astray even when you aren't completely clear where it will lead you. I call it following the breadcrumbs of your passion, and it actually how Life on Purpose Institute began. After interviewing and spending time with dozens of purposeful people for Project Purpose, I began to recognize certain common elements they shared. One of which was that almost all of them were expressing their own life purpose through some organized structure, a for-profit business, a non-profit, etc. I was in the midst of pondering what such an organization would look like for me when I received an assignment from Yoga Journal to write a feature article on simple living in a complex world. I included portions of the article in a previous chapter. They wanted, as part of the article, a sidebar listing resources about living simply. Well, I thought, Life on Purpose Institute could be in that sidebar, except their wasn't a Life on Purpose Institute yet. At first I dismissed the idea as being premature, but as I continued writing the article I could and get the idea out of my mind. Finally, I ran it by my coach, who replied, "Why not include it and see what happens?" So, I did. I didn't think much more about it until a few months later when the article appeared as the cover story for the August 1996 issue of Yoga Journal with a cartoon illustration by Gavin Wilson. A few days after the magazine hit the newsstands, my phone rang. "Hello, Brad Swift," I answered in my customary fashion. An excited voice on the other end of the line asked, "Is this Life on Purpose?" I paused, momentarily dazed, and looked around my office. I had forgotten about listing my dream in the sidebar. Gathering my wits about me, I replied, "S. How may I serve you?" That was over a decade ago. Today Life on Purpose Institute is a flourishing, spiritually based enterprise. Hundreds of people have clarified their life purpose by working individually with our Life on Purpose certified coaches, and thousands of others have done the same through our group programs. We have had close to 100 purposeful and passionate people who have gone through our coach development programs as far away as Germany and Australia. While our mission to deeply and profoundly touch and contribute to at least 1% of the world population, around 60-70 million people, is far from complete, we building momentum to have it accomplished during my lifetime. This ADA Purpose project continues to transform my life and that of my wife, Anne, who is also the Life on Purpose CFO and Program Registrar. Only in my wildest dreams did I ever think I could live such a satisfying and fulfilling life as I'm living now. But then again, I ask, and that where such realities begin in our dreams? Perhaps Goethe said it best. Whatever you can do, or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. You can be assured that at Life on Purpose Institute, we will continue to follow our purposeful path of passionate breadcrumbs. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one, and love the other, or else he will hold to the one, and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Matthew 6:24. Webster's Dictionary definition of mammon: material wealth or possessions. I've heard this passage from the Bible since I was a young boy attending the First Baptist Church in Lewisburg, North Carolina. Unfortunately, much of my life I didn't have a clue what Jesus was speaking about, since I didn't know what the word mammon meant. As luck or destiny would have it, when I started attending the Unity Center of Arden a few years ago, I learned that this passage was one of our minister's favorite ones to explore with the congregation. From those explorations, I learned that one of the ways to define mammon is that it's material wealth or possessions. In other words, it's the physical aspects of our existence, versus God, or the metaphysical part of life. So, it appears to me that what Jesus is saying is that we have a choice to make. We can either serve the material or physical part of our existence, or we can serve the spiritual or metaphysical aspect. We cannot, however, serve both. This doesn't mean that we cannot participate in both the physical and metaphysical aspect of living. Indeed, we cannot help but participate in both, since both the physical and spiritual are a part of us. However, it is important that we choose which will be our master. In other words, which aspect of our lives will rule and be the primary force that shapes our lives. It's a matter of becoming clear about our priorities. Another way to think about this vitally important lesson that Jesus was trying to impart to us is to consider the direction of our perception or our consciousness. Is it outer to inner or inner to outer? Our experience of life is a matter of perception. The question is whether you view the world out there, that is the physical reality that you perceive with your five physical senses of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching and smelling, and then have the physical shape your inner perception of your thoughts and feelings, or will it be reversed? Will you create thoughts and feelings from the realm of pure possibilities, also known as God and a few hundred other names, allowing those thoughts and feelings to be the building blocks that form your inner perception, which will then radiate out to give you your experience of the physical realm of life? It appears to me that many of us spend too much of our time allowing our inner world to be shaped by what we perceive is happening in our outer physical reality. Someone walks up to us and says something which we then assimilate with our physical senses, which then elicits some fairly automatic thoughts and feelings. In fact, for many people this is so much the way life occurs that it may be difficult to imagine any other possibility. But, just for a moment, let's see if we can consider an inner to outer approach to life, which is what I'm suggesting Jesus not only recommended but also demonstrated was possible. I'm suggesting that living a life in which we are serving God rather than mammon becomes possible when we take ownership of our power to create our own reality, starting from the inner or metaphysical realm of life. This realm of life is composed of thoughts and feelings, which come together to make up molecules of meaning, the basic building block of our metaphysical or inner universe. Contrast this to our outer, physical reality that is composed of atoms that make up molecules of matter, the basic building block of our physical universe. So the choice we have is to either create our lives from molecules of meaning, which will then give us our experience of our outer, physical reality, the inner to outer approach, or we may remain in a more reactive, automatic mode, allowing our five physical senses to inform us what's happening around us, and then unconsciously making it mean something. The outer to inner approach. Making this perceptual shift is perhaps one of the most challenging and life-altering transformations, and is an integral part of becoming truly enlightened. Why is it such a challenge? Well, in part because as a society we've come to love, honor, cherish, and indeed, to worship the physical realm of our existence. We've been taught to depend upon our five physical senses and to ignore or distrust our inner metaphysical senses. We are so caught up in the physical aspect of doing and having that we spend almost no time in the metaphysical realm of being and spirit. No wonder many of us are challenged to even consider the notion of living from inner to outer. We haven't even taken the time to ponder the possibility. But you have, haven't you? Just now, as you're reading these words, something is going on over there in your thinking nature. It may be thoughts like, what is this guy talking about? How ridiculous can he be? Or, it might be, yes, I see what he's saying. It makes sense. It resonates with my experience of life as well. Whatever your thoughts right now, I'm asking you to ponder this different way to view life, an inner to outer approach. Next, let's explore how to shift the direction of our perception from one of outer to inner to one of inner to outer. The role of your life purpose in serving God. So far, we explore the notion that it is possible for us to have our inner or metaphysical perception shape and influence our outer, physical world. And we equated this to the passage from the Bible where Jesus is reported to have said, "No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one, and love the other, or else he will hold to the one, and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon." Our access to God is from within. Allowing this inner wisdom to be the primary force to shape our life is a dramatic transformative shift in reality, what some people might even call enlightenment. Now, let's look at what role your life purpose plays in this. First, most people misidentify what a life purpose is. Through the years of interviewing thousands of people and asking them the question, what do you consider a life purpose to be? The most common response has been that a life purpose is what we are here to do while on earth. The key word is do. I'm going to suggest a different perspective, the life on purpose perspective, that a life purpose is the context, vessel, or container into which you pour your life. Your life is then shaped by your life purpose. In its simplest form, your life is you and what you are doing in moments of time. So, your life purpose is what shapes what you do. It's not the doing itself. Another way to think of your life purpose is to view it as the overall meaning that you give to each moment of your life. In other words, your life purpose is composed of molecules of meaning, your thoughts and feelings that arise from within yourself, which then radiates from you to give shape and form to your life. You can think of your life purpose as your soul's purpose, which you can become clear about when you take the time, and set the intention to go within, and to listen to what the grand planner and designer of the universe desires for you. But how will you know when you're in touch with that inner wisdom? Joy is the key, along with love, gratitude, and passion. These powerful emotions are the breadcrumbs that will lead you to your divine life purpose. But to clarify this purpose, it takes time and intention. You must be ready and willing to clarify your purpose, and you must be willing to step off of the hamster wheel of your hectic, frenzied life of doing and having, and to sit still and listen. I suppose that's one of the reasons life purpose coaching is so effective. Most of the clients who are attracted to working with a life purpose coach have reached that point in their life where they are ready to commit to doing the work, which is often more like non-work, to clarify their life purpose once and for all. The coaching relationship and coaching sessions provide some additional structure of support to assist them in following through with the commitment. Of course, hiring a life purpose coach is hardly a requirement. Stopping and listening to your inner guidance is. And what do you listen for? You listen for the thoughts that elicit in you the emotions of love, joy, gratitude, and passion. If the thoughts are about having or doing something, then look behind them to see what it is that having or doing those things would allow you to experience. This is what I call getting in touch with your life purpose by coming through the back door. For most of us, it's often much easier to get in touch with what we'd love to do and have, even though our life purpose isn't about doing or having, but is instead what shapes what we do and have. So, all you need to do is to look beyond the doing and having to the experience. And in this way, you'll be getting in touch with your soul's reason for being, that is your life purpose. Don't be surprised if when you start this process, the life purpose you get in touch with is pretty general, something like, to serve people, to make a difference in the world, to help people learn to love more. These are all excellent starting points, just don't make the mistake that many people make and stop right there with the soul searching. If you stay with it, you'll begin to get in touch with a much more powerful and focused life purpose, which will at the same time paradoxically give you tremendous room to play and express yourself fully. In other words, it is possible and preferred to have a clear, focused, laser-like life purpose that is still broad and expansive in nature. For example, when I first started pondering what the purpose of my life was, the first response that came to me was to make a difference with people and animals. Being a vet seemed like a perfect way to express this life purpose, but it was still a bit vague and unclear. Later, I realized that at least part of how I wanted to make a difference with people was by assisting them in clarifying and living true to their purpose. Clearer and more focused, though also still too much about doing. Over the years, through working with the Life on Purpose process, I've clarified my life purpose to what it is today: the possibility of all people living purposeful, passionate, and playful lives of service. Lives of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity and spiritual serenity. You may also recognize this as the Life on Purpose Institute's vision. That's because Life on Purpose Institute is a mega purpose project that gives me a great opportunity to be and to express my life purpose in the world. As you continue to clarify your life purpose into a powerful, focused statement like this, you are creating a powerful beacon and magnet that will allow you to attract the perfect resources that will allow you to continue to express and fulfill your life purpose. The magnetizing effects of a clear and focused life purpose. Now, let's examine the tremendous magnetizing power that a clear and focused life purpose can become in your life, literally attracting to you all the resources you will ever need to be able to express and fulfill your life purpose. There are two powerful universal metaphysical laws that are in operation here: the law of attraction and the law of purposeful creating. It's useful to compare these metaphysical laws to the law of gravity, for just like the law of gravity, these metaphysical laws are operating whether you are aware of them or not, whether you believe in them or not, and whether or not you like how they operate. For example, let's say you were to travel down to Australia and spend some time with the Aborigines. Even though they might not know specifically about gravity and may not be familiar with the term, if one of them walks off a cliff, they will fall to earth at exactly the same rate as you would. This is also true despite whether or not you or they believe in the law of gravity. You'd still splat just as hard. And the fact that you might not like falling to earth isn't going to slow you down one little bit. Well, I'm asking you to consider that the law of attraction and purposeful creating are just as inexorable. They work consistently whether you are aware of them, believe in them, or like how they operate. If this is the case, then it stands to reason that it would be a good idea to learn how to most effectively operate in the world with them, just like most of us have done with the law of gravity. So, what is the law of attraction? Simply stated, the law of attraction means that like attracts like, and in the metaphysical universe it means that thoughts of a particular nature attract thoughts of like kind. So, if you have a thought of lack, say for instance, I can't afford that, and you hold on to it for just a little while, it won't be long before it will attract another thought of lack. And before you know it, like a snowball rolling downhill, you'll have a tremendous accumulation of lack-based thoughts. Of course, the same is true in reverse. If you have a thought of abundance and hold on to it for a little while, it will begin to attract other thoughts of abundance. And the very same is true regarding your life purpose. You can either hold on to thoughts that arise from and are consistent with your life purpose, or you can have thoughts that arise from and are consistent with your fear-based inherited purpose, which is another force that can shape your life just as powerfully as your true purpose. Now, the attractive nature of this law can be greatly heightened by including the law of purposeful creating. The attractive nature of your thoughts can be amped up tremendously by supercharging them with certain emotions. Certain thoughts tend to stimulate certain emotions. For example, lack-based thoughts tend to stimulate the emotions of fear, anger, or resentment, while abundance-based thoughts tend to spark emotions of love, joy, happiness, and gratitude. And so, by supercharging your thoughts with the appropriate emotions, you can attract the resources needed to bring those thoughts into reality. Your life is being shaped either by your true life purpose or your inherited purpose. Completely consistent with these universal laws, it can't be any other way. So, if your experience of life is predominantly one of fear, lack, and struggle, then your actions will be consistent with your experience because your thoughts and feelings continue to attract more of the same. And if you're interested in living a life filled with love, abundance, and flow, then begin today, in this very moment, to purposefully pivot to thoughts and feelings consistent with what you want to experience in your life. Of course, since we live in a physical universe of distance, time, and form, there is a bit of a time delay before your new thoughts and feelings will start to attract results in the physical world consistent with the new thoughts and feelings. And that's where faith can help you bridge this time delay gap. Trusting that these universal metaphysical laws are in effect in each and every moment will help give you the fortitude to stay on purpose with your thoughts and feelings. In this way, it is possible for us all to experience a life of love, abundance, and flow. A life on purpose. Gifting has become a popular term with life coaches. Basically, it means helping a person change their perspective about something in their life and thus change the results of their lives. While it's not always easy to help someone shift, it can have quite a profound and life-enhancing effect. It's also possible for you to shift yourself using some of the same techniques of a coach. One of the easiest and most effective I found is combining the two coaching tools of audio listening and thought-evoking questions. Here are simple, step-by-step method to making a powerful shift in your prosperity consciousness. Identify where you stuck. Before you can make a shift, it's important to get clear that you stuck and where you stuck. This isn't always as easy as it sounds, especially if you've been stuck there for a long time. It may no longer look or feel like you stuck, but more like that just the way life is. Since this section is about creating a life of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity, let's assume for this example that you stuck around money. Start by being honest with yourself. Becoming clear that you have some issues around money can be very good news, because it's the first step to becoming unstuck. How many times in the past week have you had some negative thoughts and or feelings related to money? If it's more than a couple, then I'd be suspicious that you may have found a good place to make a shift. I use this example because money issues are one of the most common places people seem to be stuck, stay stuck, often without realizing it. So, the first step to becoming unstuck is recognizing you are. Turn your thoughts on loudspeaker. A great starting place to begin to make a shift in consciousness and perspective is by listening to the thoughts you are having around the stuck issue. An easy and fun way to get those thoughts out of the dark recesses of your mind and into the light of day where you can do something about them is to speak your thoughts aloud and record what you say. This can be especially enlightening when you first become upset about something. Let's use the money example again. You go to your mailbox and find 6 bills you weren't counting on, a stack of catalogs of wonderful things you like to buy but you know you can, and at the very bottom is a letter from the IRS notifying you that they decided to audit you for the last 3 years. Now, what are you thinking and feeling? Put it on audio and record it, or write down the thoughts and feelings you were having related to what you found in your mailbox. Look for the stuck way or ways of thinking. When the upset has had time to diminish, go back and listen to the tape or read your journal entry, looking for stuck ways of thinking. Pretend that you are a detective. When a detective arrives at a crime scene, he does and wonder if there are any clues. He knows there are, and his job is to find them. So, approach this process in the same way. You know that there are ways you've been thinking about this situation that haven't been serving you and have kept you stuck around the issue. Your job now is to uncover them. Here is a list of some of the common stuck ways of thinking that we can all fall into. Either / or thinking all / or nothing thinking, comparing, holding yourself, fear-based or lack-based, taking personally, overgeneralizing, blaming. Ask yourself, am I really willing and ready to become unstuck? This question is important to ask because unless you are willing and ready to become unstuck, you are likely to end up wasting your time. When the answer is yes, then proceed. Use powerful questions to shift your thinking and thus your perspective. Powerful questions can jar you out of your stuck perspective or shine light on a new way of thinking. Try several different questions until you hit on the ones that make the biggest difference. For example, let's say you identified that a lot of what your internal dialogue was focused on was how much you can never afford what you want. You may have recognized that "can never afford what I want" has become your unconscious mantra. Try shifting that to asking the question, oh, can I afford what I want? With a simple shift you begin to move from lack consciousness to abundance. Or, if you noticed you caught in either or thinking, ask yourself, if this was a matter of either or, but more of a both and situation, what would be different? Claim your shift. A final step is to claim and own the shift in perspective that comes from this exercise. By doing so, you begin to build confidence that you can shift yourself out of any stuckness in the future. So be sure to claim your victories, no matter how large or small. Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God's. Jesus, Matthew 22-21. There was a time in my life when it became clear to me that what was next in my own personal journey along the purposeful path was to delve more deeply into my relationship with money and finance. I said it several ways: to have a breakthrough, a transformation, to create a new relationship with money, one that would be more empowering and that would give me access to greater freedom and power in this important part of the physical material world. As is often the case with transformation, it was a real roller coaster ride that included coaching sessions where I mostly sat in silence, or wept uncontrollably as I remembered scenes from my childhood when my mother would lock herself in the bathroom and threaten to take her own life because she was so tired of trying to raise her two sons alone and without enough money to pay the bills. Not long after that call with my coach, I remembered a book I had read several years ago called Money and the Meaning of Life by Jacob Needleman. I knew as soon as I found it on the shelf that it was time to read it again. It really felt like reading it for the first time. I must have been asleep the first time through. We live in two worlds and are of two natures. This is a fundamental truth that Needleman builds upon throughout his book. The very essence of the idea of man that we find at the core of all great teachings of all times and places is that we human beings are two-natured. One force alone can never bring meaning into human life. Meaning appears only in the place between the worlds, in the relationship of two worlds, two levels, two fundamental qualities of power and energy. One of those worlds is the material or physical world. The other is the spiritual or non-physical world. Each world has its own ruler, and in the material world money is king, while in the spiritual world, God or whichever name you care to use rules. And humankind, we have the daunting task to try to keep some balance, some stability, while teetering between the two worlds, one foot in the material and one in the spiritual. Thus, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's and unto God that which is God's. Jesus, Matthew 22-21. To which Needleman writes, in my opinion, the entire problem of life in contemporary culture can be defined as the challenge to understand that saying of Jesus. It is not so simple. In fact, it is immensely difficult. I agree. He continues, it requires that we begin to understand what in ourselves belongs to the transcendent realm and what to the material realm, and then to give to each what is due to each, no more and no less. From this arises the question, what is the relationship that we can develop between these two worlds? Worlds that often feel so far apart as to cause us to wince in pain from such a gigantic split. What is the relationship that will allow us to stretch into this often precarious yoga position and ultimately result in a satisfying, fulfilling and joyful life? a life on purpose. Who counsels the money king? I remember in many of the stories of long ago when kings and emperors ruled the lands that oftentimes there was a special person who had the ear of the king. It may have been an archbishop, or the sheriff of Nottingham, or a wise wizard, or other advisor. And depending on how well the king listened and how well the counsel was that came from this advisor, the people of the land either flourished or suffered. So, as I explored my own realm, it's occurred to me that perhaps one way to bring these two diverse worlds of the physical and spiritual closer together is to listen to the Most High Counselor, the wisest of wizards, the supreme sheriff of all, through my connection with the divine source. In other words, what if our physical world and our dealings with money and finances were shaped by our growing connection with spirit? What I've came to realize is that something else becomes available when I take my financial matters as seriously as I take my spiritual life. Taking something seriously doesn't mean becoming obsessed with it and having it rule my entire life. It does mean putting in time to know what's what with the numbers and to plan for how best to utilize these physical resources in service to the divine as well as in service to both my material needs and those of my family. What I'm suggesting is that when we allow the spirit world to have the ear of the money king, we are better able to stay in balance as we stand in both worlds. Where does life purpose come in? Now, where does one's life purpose play into all of this, you may ask, and for sure I asked that myself. It seems to me that knowing one's divinely inspired life purpose with crystal clarity provides a powerful way to relate to and listen to this guidance. For example, as I begin to awaken in the morning, I can take a few minutes to give thanks for another day, another 16-18 hours or so during which I can live true to my life purpose. Since my life purpose statement helps me to get in touch with my true self, I may spend some time with a purposeful practice to connect more deeply with who I truly am before exposing myself to the bright lights and glitter of the material world. I can then allow the connection to the divine that's available when I'm in touch with my true self to stay in my awareness as I travel through the physical world that also includes my relationship with money and finance. Out of these insights, Anne and I committed to a practice of meeting at least weekly to review our family and business financial matters. And we now start each of these fun with finance meetings with a purposeful prayer time to be sure that divine spirit has the ear of the money king. Since I believe in the power of affirmations, I'd like to close with one. I take my money matters seriously as I allow my connection with the divine to direct my financial decisions, choices, and actions. And so it is. Have you ever noticed that some people have no trouble making requests while other people seem incapable of asking for anything directly? Yet, a primary law of prosperity is, ask for what you want when you want it and then be responsible for whatever you get. At the same time, there are ways of making requests that have counterproductive side effects. For example, you can get a lot of people to respond if you make a request of them while pointing a gun at their head, but of course, there's many harmful side effects to making a request in this manner, not the least of which is that someone else is likely to shoot you. So, let's look at the different levels of requesting. See where you fit on this scale. And if you want more from life, you may want to adjust the level of your requesting. Refusing assistance of any kind. This is the bottom of the scale of requesting. And believe it or not, a lot of people operate in this area much of the time. These are the lone rangers of the world. People who have to do it alone. Perfectionists sometimes fit in here as well since they're convinced no one else can do it as perfectly as they can, so they have to do everything themselves. Do you ever find yourself operating at this level? Covert request. Do you know anyone who never makes a request but is quick with a complaint? Often, complaining is a covert way to make a request. The person complaining would really like to have something done about the problem, but they don't know how to make a clear request to someone who could do something about it. So, they complain to you. Of course, you don't ever do this, right? Open-ended requests. An open-ended request is certainly more powerful than simply complaining, but it still lacks punch. A full request will include a specific by one attached to it. For instance, will you take out the trash? Isn't as powerful or effective as, will you take out the trash before the end of the day? Contextualized requests. What I mean by this phrase is that before you simply leap out there and make a request of somebody, you should take the time to get into their world and look from their point of view before making the request. Answering the question, why would it be in their self-interest to honor my request, will dramatically increase the number of requests that people accept. Often, a recommendation made by a professional will fall into this category. Unreasonable requests. Unreasonable requests may be contextualized or not, so they could be categorized above or below contextualized requests. In either case, These are requests that stretch the person or people to which they are being made, and they are favorite tools of many coaches. For example, I recently requested of one of my clients that she share her life purpose with 100 people before our next session 10 days away. At first I was going to set the target at 5, but then I realized that the idea of sharing with 100 people would begin to break up some old patterns she had about sharing herself, whether she completely fulfilled the request or not. A few days later, my client stepped forth in one of Life on Purpose Institute email list communities and shared herself and her life purpose with over 50 people that were on the list. Before the request, she'd not sent any messages to the people on the list, even though she'd been a member for weeks. That's the power of unreasonable requests. They can be effective tools for helping people climb out of their self-imposed boxes. Demands begin to get into the range of the requests that can have adverse side effects, although in the right place they can be quite effective. One way to make a demand effective is to make it from a stand rather than a position. In other words, demanding someone live true to their own standards and principles as a way to stand for them and their life will be much more effective than demanding something of them while being positional about it. On the other side of the equation, whenever someone makes a demand of you, it's useful to remember that it's still a request, and you do have a choice whether to accept it or not. Violent requests. Besides the example I gave earlier of pointing a gun at someone and demanding their wallet, a more common example of a violent request is one that is made with anger. While it may appear on the surface to be an effective way to get someone to do something, it has harmful side effects in the long run. The 2-year-old throwing a temper tantrum on the floor of the supermarket may get his way in the short term, but he's also likely to suffer the side effects once his mom or dad gets him to the car. The same is true for the rest of us. Although the side effects of using anger to get our way may not be as immediate or obvious, this is clearly a case where the ends definitely do not justify the means. What does this have to do with living on purpose? If you find that you are not progressing along the purposeful path with as much velocity or results as you like, then consider that you may not be making enough requests of yourself, others, and the universe. Keep track of the number of requests you make for a week that directly relate to your life purpose. Then, play a game to double the number the following week, and to double it again the next week. Don't be surprised if you have a tremendous breakthrough in living true to your purpose. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. Albert Einstein. What is the relationship of mindful abundance and simplicity? I believe I can best illuminate this by sharing where the notion of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity came from. In the mid-90s, my wife and I were active participants in the voluntary simplicity movement. Well, this was before we even realized there was such a movement going on, and we both had a strong urge to simplify our lives. We began by clearing out a lot of physical and emotional clutter. At the time we met, we each owned a house. So as our relationship blossomed and it became clear that we were meant to spend our lives together, we decided to sell one of the houses, thus simplifying our life further. And the more we simplified, the more energized we felt, and the more we were inspired to simplify further. Then, I spent a fair amount of time on various CompuServe community groups. Since this was in the pre-internet days, one day I discovered the Voluntary Simplicity community and was thrilled to find that there were many other people around the world interested in living simpler lives. So many, in fact, enough to call it an underground movement. But as I hung out in the Voluntary Simplicity community, I began to realize that a fair number of people seemed to be simplifying their life more from a mindset of lack and scarcity. I remember one long discussion thread debating whether you saved more water using a dishwasher versus washing by hand. It seemed to me that a lot of the people were simplifying their life because they believed there weren't enough resources to go around, so we all needed to simplify our lives. It appeared to be more of an involuntary simplicity movement which sounded and felt a lot like poverty. As I pondered upon this, I remembered some of the lessons I learned from one of the few bosses I had in my professional life. She was the CEO of the management consulting and coaching company I worked for, and she exuded a simplicity approach to life from a mindset of respect for the abundant resources all around us. She was one of the most generous and caring people I ever met, and she balanced that generosity with a respectful appreciation for life-rich bounty. In other words, She was the epitome of living a life of mindful abundance balanced with simplicity. So perhaps the fulcrum that keeps mindful abundance in balance with simplicity is made up of respect and trust, respecting the rich and abundant universe in which we live and trusting that all the resources are readily available for us to continue to express and fulfill our life purpose. Perhaps you woke up one morning to realize the old joke is true: even if you finish the rat race first, you're still a rat. Or maybe, the thought crept in more slowly, wedging itself into your consciousness while sitting in the 5 o'clock traffic jam as you commute home. However it appeared, you now realize it's time for a change to a simpler way of life. But how do you start? These 10 steps will provide you with guidance to pleasantly propel you along the path. 1. The first step may be the easiest for many people because by the time you're reading this it may already have been accomplished. That is making up your heart and mind that it's time to simplify. Even better if the decision has moved to the level of your being committed. If not, don't worry. It's quite possible to test the waters of simple living before diving in. 2. A helpful realization to tag on to the decision to simplify is to realize that it's a process most easily accomplished slowly and mindfully, bringing the rat race mentality of drive, determination, and get the job done no matter what can be self-defeating. So, ease up and enjoy the ride. 3. The next step may be a little more difficult, but it can be accomplished by everyone, including those who consider themselves the exception. Carve out a little space and time for self-reflection. Maybe it's one night a week, or a few lunch breaks where you take your bag lunch to a quiet park bench, or a weekend when you tell everyone you're going away and then you don't. Or you go somewhere quiet and serene with only one agenda: to be with yourself. It's fine to take your family as long as they agree to participate in the purpose of the trip, which is outlined in steps 4, 5, and 6. 4. In the carved out space and time begin to examine what's truly important to you. What gives you joy, satisfaction, fulfillment? What moves you to laugh or cry? Look beyond just the momentary surface level stuff and see what provides deeper moments of meaning. Remember your childhood years and those moments with your family that, while they may have appeared routine in the moment, you now remember fondly. 5. While examining what brings joy and satisfaction to your life, also spend some time examining your values. As you do, notice whether your current life is consistent with those values. If not, where have they been compromised, and how might a simpler, less complex life allow for a renewal of those values? 6. Last of all, look at your life to see where it's being shaped by a particular lifestyle, as in the keeping up with the Joneses mentality, and where it's being shaped by your values. One useful way to do this is to draw a line down the middle of a page of paper. On one side write lifestyle-based life, on the other write value-based life. Then, looking at your life, write down whatever fits under the 2 headings. For example, does the car or cars you own represent your values or your lifestyle? How about where you live, the home and neighborhood? How about your job? How much or little you're involved in the community, etc. By the way, there's nothing wrong with lifestyle. It's just not the ideal yardstick for shaping a life if you're interested in joy and satisfaction. There are also no right answers. People must examine their own lives and make the call for themselves. 7. By this time in the process you'll probably see some areas that could benefit from simplification, since it appears that a value-based life and a simple life go hand in hand. If you're into making lists, you might want to list what possible actions you can take towards that aim, then prioritize them. Or just pick 2 or 3 activities that would be fun, engaging, and that would move you further along the simplicity path. 8. Simplifying your finances is often one of the most strategic steps to take for people who have identified that much of their life energy is devoted more to lifestyle building than value building. A very powerful and effective process for financial transformation is outlined in the bestseller, Your Money or Your Life YMORL, by Joe Dominguez and Vicki Robin. I highly recommend this book for a more thorough look at how to bring your financial life in alignment with your values. In the meantime, here are a few steps to get you started. A. Find out where your money goes. Most people don't have a good handle on where all their money goes. The simplest way to determine this is to keep track for a few weeks or months where every cent is spent. This one step can be very revealing, because once you realize that you're spending $5 a day on cappuccino, which equates to $150 a month or $1,800 a year, you realize that it might be possible to streamline your budget starting here. This is especially true if you realize that, while drinking a cappuccino started out as a real treat, It has now devolved into just part of the routine. Remember to balance your desire to simplify with a bit of mindfulness, so as to avoid a feeling of deprivation or scarcity. B. Continue this process by measuring your spending against how much fulfillment and satisfaction you're receiving. If you think of money as something that you exchange your life energy for, your spending naturally becomes more conscious. C. Determine how much money you're exchanging your life energy for in your job or career. Again, most people don't realize or take into account how much it costs them to work, so they often have an inflated view of how much money they make. To figure this out, take your base amount of pay and subtract all the expenditures that are directly related to work. In other words, if you weren't working, would you be eating your lunches out each day? How about the cost of that 30-minute commute? Also factor in the commute time as hours worked. How much do you spend on business attire? Factor all of this to determine how much you're really taking home. People often realize from this exercise that instead of making $20 per hour at work, their actual income is only $8 minus 10 per hour. Suddenly, the $5 cappuccino is costing them 30 minutes of their life energy. It can be a revealing experience going through this process. 9. Many people realize from step 8 that one big area of their lives that could be simplified and would have an accumulative effect elsewhere is to eliminate their debt. Debt-free living is a great way to live life. I call it living a life paid in full. Much of the lifestyle we've come to expect and take for granted in this country comes with an incredibly high price tag, especially when we're buying now and paying later and paying and paying. See the next chapter, Eliminating Debt and Injecting Values, for more details. 10. The last step is patience and persistence. Remember, it's taken most people years, perhaps even generations, to develop the complex lives they live. It's unrealistic to think it can be all turned around at once. Besides, it's the journey that we're here for, not the destination. Enjoy the ride. Bringing your values to your business and your life can be a very powerful and exciting experience, and, as with any process, it takes time. You will find there are two approaches that can be taken. 1. You can bring more of your values to your work. 2. You can reduce the influence your current lifestyle has in directing your business. You'll find both approaches most powerful. Start with one value. One effective way to inject more of your values into your business is to take one value you feel is particularly important to you and that you find is lacking in your present work. Take, for instance, integrity. Let's assume it's an important value for you. One way to consider integrity is that there are 3 levels of integrity. The first level is keeping your word, doing what you say you will do by the time you said you would do it. The second level is being true to your standards and ideals. The third and most profound level is being true to yourself. Where is it present and where is it missing? Taking the one value, look to see where it's present and where it's missing in your work. Make a list of the areas next to the missing list. Write out what steps you can take to bring more of the value to the area. Once the list is complete, take the top 4 or 5 areas you feel would most effectively bring the value to bear in your work. Set a date next to the steps you are ready to take. Place a realistic date by when you will take the action or actions. Once these steps have been completed, go to the next value and repeat the process. Bringing integrity to work. This whole process is an exercise in integrity because you will bring your values to the workplace. In other words, your work will be consistent with who you are. The most profound and deepest level of integrity. A natural byproduct of such a process is workability. Even though the process can be challenging, it is ultimately very rewarding. You will inject your values into the work you do, and in the process, take much of the lifestyle-driven motivation away. To augment this process, let's look at how to speed up the process. Eliminate debt. How to do it. Here's one method that has worked for thousands of people. It's one of those processes which is simple yet not always easy, but the results are worth the effort. I call it the snowball approach to debt elimination. Make a list. Make a list of all your personal debts and your business debts. If you work for a company, you may only have personal debts to work on. If you have both, you can follow this plan in both arenas, or work first on your personal debt and later on your business debt. Prioritize the debt. Make a new list of the debt you'll be working on in the following order. List the largest debt amount at the top and the lowest amount at the bottom. For most people, that will mean your home mortgage will be at the top and your credit cards will be at the bottom. Here is how to start the snowball rolling downhill. Pay the most on the least. You want to pay as much as you possibly can on the debt that you can pay off the fastest, which is the one at the bottom of the list. Pay the minimum on all the other debts you have until that first debt is retired. Of course, you must continue to pay your home mortgage, and whatever the minimum is for the other debts. But the idea is to pay off the debt at the bottom of the list as fast as possible. Redirect savings. If you are currently placing money away in savings, redirect this money to paying off debt. Again, this advice may sound contrary to what you've learned in the past, but consider it for a moment. If you are paying 15-18% or more on credit card balances while socking away money that is only drawing 7-8%, you're losing money. Focus on one thing at a time. First, pay off your debt and then you'll have plenty of extra money to save. Cut up the credit cards. This debt elimination plan becomes totally ineffective unless you are willing to stop living off of credit. For most people this means cutting up the credit cards. If you feel you must keep one for those unexpected emergencies, then once you've paid off a card, take it and put it away where it's not easy to get to, like a safe deposit box. Then, use it only for a legitimate emergency. No, a big sale at the mall doesn't count. Evaluate your spending habits. Look for unconscious spending. We all have it. Money we spend which really doesn't add significantly to the quality of our lives. Most people, once they commit to becoming debt-free, are amazed how much money they can add to the snowball without any sense of deprivation. One good place to look besides credit card spending is automatic debits to your checking accounts or credit cards. Businesses make it easy for you to pay them in these ways because you quickly become unconscious about the monthly payments. It's similar to what gambling casinos do when they turn your cold hard cash into plastic chips. Before long you forget that the blue chip is really $25. Stick with the snowballing. Once the first credit card is paid off in this fashion, the snowball starts to pick up speed. You can then add the amount you were paying on the first card to the minimum you've been paying on the next debt on the list. Each time you pay off a debt, the amount you can apply to the next one increases. By the time you get to your mortgage payment, you'll have enough money to pay off 2-3 months worth of principal at a time. Remember, most of the mortgage for the first several years is interest. Through this method, most Americans are able to become completely debt-free within 5-7 years, since the loan system limits how much debt we are able to accumulate to about 35% of our annual income. Beyond that, banks won't approve you for a home mortgage. As your personal debt diminishes, you will find it easier to bring more of your values into your life. In the process, don't be surprised to find that you've got more time for your family, more time to pursue your other interests, and more time to enjoy the real American dream, freedom from worry. It is just as if a king sent you to the country to carry out a specific task. If you go and accomplish 100 other tasks, but do not perform that particular task, then it is as though you performed nothing at all. So, everyone comes into this world for a particular task, and that is their purpose. If they do not perform it, then they will have done nothing. Jalaluddin Rumi, 1207-1273, mystical poet of Islam. We don't need complex or esoteric practices. We certainly don't need an enormous changing variety of them. We do need to make spirituality the hub around which the wheel of our daily life turns. Bolos off it a meaningful life. It just takes practice. What is the task that the mystical poet, Rumi, is suggesting in his quote that introduces this next section of our spiral of fulfillment? What is it that we must fulfill or our lives will have been a waste of time? Well, as you know by this point, the life on purpose perspective suggests that our life purpose isn't just about what we here to do it, more about who we are as spiritual beings. The task at hand is to realize this cosmic truth and to then live accordingly, to make spirituality the hub around which the wheel of our daily life turns. Let's explore a bit why our spiritual nature is so important to living an inspired life on purpose, becoming fully engaged in life. According to Jim Lower and Tony Schwartz in their book, The Power of Full Engagement, we human beings have 4 different sources of energy: physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy. Or of course, just like in a hybrid automobile where the gasoline engine and the electrical battery system are closely interconnected, our 4 energy sources are as well. As Lower and Schwartz point out, the quantity of energy we have to spend at any given moment is a reflection of our physical capacity. However, our motivation to spend what we have is largely a spiritual issue. Fundamentally, spiritual energy is a unique force for action in all dimensions of our lives. It is the most powerful source of our motivation, perseverance, and direction. Anything that ignites the human spirit serves to drive full engagement and to maximize performance in whatever mission we are on. In other words, our spiritual energy and nature is what gives our lives meaning, and it that meaning that motivates and inspires us, as well as giving us the strength to persevere. while also giving us a sense of direction and focus in our lives. It also what allows us to tap into an infinite wellspring of passion, enthusiasm, compassion, wisdom, creativity, peace of mind, joy, and universal love, just to mention a few of the divine qualities to which we have access. You see, we are always connected to this infinite source of spiritual energy ways. We like an electrical outlet, just waiting for an appliance to be plugged into us. The electrical power is already available long before the appliance is plugged in. If you don't believe me, just try sticking your finger in the socket on second thought. Please don't try that experiment. Just take my word for it. We constantly and consistently connected and in communication with the cosmic consciousness and creator of this incredible cosmos. We just tend to forget this at times, and so we may fail to experience the connection. We often so blinded and deafened by the glitter, bling, and roar of this physical world in which we live that we can easily forget this connection, and when we do forget, especially if we forget for an extended amount of time, we may find ourselves in another kind of spiral, a downward spiral that driven and perpetuated by the fear and lack involved with the inherited purpose, the close connection between spiritual energy and life purpose. And here is where we come full circle with our spiral of fulfillment that started with becoming clear about our life purpose, our divinely inspired life purpose. That is, knowing your divinely inspired life purpose with crystal clarity is like having a door thrown wide open to the divine source of the universe. Yes, Divine Spirit maintains an open door policy for all of us, especially when we clear about who we are as spiritual beings and what we came here to be and to experience, and we allow that purpose to shape our lives, all of our lives, our decisions, our choices, and our actions. So, how do we keep the door to the divine open? How do we keep the communication channels open so we can hear the divine guidance? Well, it just takes practice, patient and persistence practice. How do you start your day? Do you find yourself automatically awake, inspired, and ready to get on with creating your life? Or do you perhaps find yourself awaking to the morass into which you went to sleep? Perhaps you tossed and turned from the troubles of the previous days. How to pay your bills, how to take care of your family, how are you ever going to get yourself on a wellness program that works, etc. Let's face it, there's plenty of opportunity to awaken more off purpose than on purpose, simply because we mostly living in a world that based in fear, lack, and struggle, and much of that struggle results in needless suffering. So, how do you live a spiritually based life on purpose? Well, as Bolozov points out in many of his books, it just takes practice. Spiritual practices are paramount to raising one consciousness and awareness of the constant and consistent connection we have with the Divine Spirit. It's so easy to lose sight of that connection with the countless number of enticing distractions of the physical material world in which we live. Of course, you may be like the person who came to one of Bo's spiritual retreats and who stood up and shared that he knew it would be beneficial for him to meditate for an hour a day, but he simply didn't have time. "Oh, what should I do?" he asked Bo, to which Bo answered, "In that case, meditate for 2 hours." What this story means to me is that it takes effort to carve out time from an overly hectic, fast-paced, and full life to center ourselves within the divine energy of the universe, and it well worth the effort. And you don't need to start with 2 hours of concentrated meditation, or even an hour. 10 to 15 minutes can be a good start. Ease into the process and give it some time and patience to work its magic. At the time I started Life on Purpose Institute, I was pretty much your typical type A personality, with many of the traits and habits of a workaholic. Up at the crack of dawn, jerked awake by the blaring of an alarm clock, straight to the kitchen for my first fix of the legalized drug of caffeine found in coffee, and straight to work. XCPT. I found that this lifestyle simply was and consistent with my own evolving life purpose that included not only purposeful and passionate service, but also the elements of playfulness, simplicity, and spiritual serenity. So I fooled the aspect of myself that said I had to work hard if I wanted my new enterprise to succeed. I convinced myself that a critically important part of my work as the founder and chief visionary officer of Life on Purpose Institute was to start my day with a purposeful spiritual practice. So I created a new routine upon awakening that included at least 15 to 20 minutes of quiet time. During that time, I could read inspirational materials, journal about my life purpose, meditate, whatever felt right for the day, but whatever I did, it had to help me become more awake and aware of my true purpose and deepen my connection to the divine. Within a few weeks, I began to notice a significant difference in the quality of my life and my work. and others started to notice as well. Eventually, I realized that if 20 minutes made that much of a difference, what might 30 or even 40 minutes in quiet reflection provide? And so, I eased into my morning practice time that now averages 90 minutes to 1 hour on most days and often includes a brisk walk in nature as I declare to the world and to God who I will be that day through my purposeful prayer, parts of which are included in this book. The purposeful pointer of this chapter is simply this: get started today. Tomorrow at the latest, carve out just a little time to reconnect with your source. Promise yourself and someone else that will support you in keeping the promise that you will keep it up for 60 straight days. If you miss a day, don't worry about it, and don't make yourself feel guilty over it. Just start over at day 1. After 60 straight days, assess the quality of your life. My bet is that you will be hooked on spirit. If not, try it for another 60 days. Living a spiritually based life on purpose is readily possible. It just takes practice. We all heard the saying, "Oh, what you love and the money will follow." Well, maybe yes, maybe no. But whether money follows when we do what we love is really a moot point. Why? Because we misconstrued what life is really about. I observe that many of us are searching for love in all the wrong places and in all the wrong ways. Many of us are searching for love, satisfaction, fulfillment, and a joyful life in all the wrong places where none of it can be found. We've forgotten that we here on this planet as spiritual beings, and that in our soul growth and evolution that is a primary purpose for this visit to the physical realm. So, we are in effect feeding our souls an imbalanced diet if most of our focus is only on the material part of our world. What we want and all the work we need to do to get it. For it is not all the doing and having of our material world that nourishes our soul. So no matter how much of it we consume, we still left fundamentally malnourished, unfulfilled, and dissatisfied with life. But if money and the stuff we buy with it is essentially junk food to our soul, what, then, makes for a balanced nutritious diet? Meaning and meaningful experiences, those are the basic building block of a healthy soul. The food groups that come from these basic building blocks include vision, what a person sees is possible for themselves and the world. Values, especially those core intangibles for which we are willing to give our life aimness, the core essence of who we are. When we mix these 3 food groups of meaning with another essential ingredient for our soul, universal love, that attractive force that holds all of us together, then we have the makings of a very nutritious and nourishing diet for our soul. In other words, following your bliss, doing what you love leads to a meaningful and loving life that nurtures and nourishes the soul, whether or not great financial wealth follows. And paradoxically, financial wealth often does come as a natural byproduct of living true to our divinely inspired life purpose, especially if those monetary resources will assist us in fulfilling our purpose. Mother Teresa was not a financially wealthy woman, but she was a very healthy soul, because she lived consistently with her vision of what she saw to be possible. She lived a life shaped by her core values and the essence of who she was, and her life was filled with love and a reverence for all of life. In living such a soulfully healthy life, money indeed becomes a moot point. But that does not mean any of us need live in poverty or lack. It does mean that money is and the point or purpose of life. It merely one form that the infinite resources of the universe manifest in. It's also important to realize that these infinite resources appear in many different forms and are available to all of us so that we can live lives that nurture and nourish our souls. So, please, hold off on the soul junk food. Go for a balanced diet of meaning and purpose. Your balanced diet inventory. Here are a few simple questions that will help you quickly evaluate whether you are feeding your soul a balanced diet. 1. How often in a week do you set aside time to just be with yourself without distractions or busy work? Some examples of this kind of time include meditation, reflection, contemplation, prayer, and walking in nature. 2. What percentage of a week activities do you find nurturing to your soul? These would be activities that you naturally enjoy doing and that are consistent with your values and purpose in life. Activities that are consistent with your life purpose have high nutritional value to your soul, while those that stem from fear, lack, or struggle have low nutritional value or may even be harmful to your soul energy. 3. When was the last time you purchased something or in some way obtained something that was particularly nurturing to your spirit? Perhaps it made you feel particularly cared for, loved, and appreciated, or it allowed you to better express your life purpose. Like doing too much, focusing on acquiring stuff can result in a soul diet filled with empty calories that simply do not feed our spirit. Having for having's sake, Purchasing something because you are bored or need some diversionary activity is not wholesome soul food. But sometimes, an unlikely item can end up a rich meal for your inner self. I recently purchased a new bathrobe, after wearing my original one to the point of it becoming threadbare. The old robe had 3/4 inch sleeves and was fairly short, coming down to just below my knees. For years I thought, someday I'm going to have a full-length robe with sleeves that completely cover my arms. My new one does just that, plus it's made of a very soft and warm fleece material. To my surprise, I find wearing it very kind to my soul, almost like curling up in a loved one's arms. It is especially nurturing to wear my robe while curled up in my loved one's arms. So a balanced diet for your soul should include 1. Ample quiet time to be with yourself without a lot of distractions. 2. Plenty of activities throughout the day that reflect your values and purpose. 3. Material things in our life that support us in living true to our life purpose, including those things that are especially nurturing to your inner self. Remember, as the bumper stickers say, offering is optional. Be good to your soul. Grace, the unmerited divine assistance given humans for his regeneration or sanctification. Merriam-Webster Dictionary. The universe is in favor of life. Somehow, while growing up with a Southern Baptist upbringing, I missed the concept of grace. The only real meaning the word had for me was a second way of talking about saying the blessing before the meal. You say race. So through the years, as people would talk about the grace of God, I just assumed that they were talking about saying the blessing. A few years ago it started to dawn on me that perhaps they were really talking about something else. So finally I took the time to look up the word in the dictionary. What I found was an awesomely empowering definition. Grace is the merited assistance from God to man for his recuperation and sanctification. This phrase, the unmerited assistance from God, means to me that the universe in which we live is lined up in favor of life working. On the one hand, God the universe is reported to be non-judgmental. In other words, we have free choice, and we may choose that which will enhance our lives or that which distracts from our lives. But then, when we factor in grace, if we are in a situation where we are on the fence, then God will be in favor of our lives working. As I said, this is an awesome concept. So in other words, we actually have to work against the design of the universe, the design of God, to have our lives not work. This can be a pretty confronting perspective to try on, because if someone then looks at life and realizes it not working, then this person actually had to overcome grace and actually fought the unmerited assistance from God and won, and in the winning, we ultimately lose. If life is lined up in favor of life working, then some of us have been putting in a lot of hours of overtime to see to it that our lives don't work. We do seem to have a knack for sabotaging the natural design of our Creator. It appears to me that the very religions from which the concept of grace arises have an underlying false premise which says we humans are born sinners. In other words, we are born already off the mark. But how can that be? I remember the first moments of my daughter's birth like it was yesterday. As I gazed down into those clear brown eyes, there could not have been a more perfect example of grace, life working at the level of a miracle. We all born sinners? What an erroneous notion. The problem is that we lived as though this is true so long that it become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we effectively counteracted much of the effects of grace. I invite you today to spend some time pondering how you sabotaged the natural design of the universe. How have you counteracted the unmerited assistance from God in your life? Even more importantly, what are you ready to release of those patterns, those habits, those ways of sabotage? What are you willing and ready to release this week? The universe is in favor of life. Why not give it a chance? No. Iggy is not the brother of Ziggy. Iggy is the name I affectionately use for my inner guidance. After all, there are thousands of names for God, so why not make up one that resonates? As strange as it may sound, Iggy does this for me because the name reminds me where he lives. IG, inner guidance. Also, I find the name to be a bit impish and playful, which reminds me that my inner guidance does and have to always be so serious and significant. Naming my source of inner knowing also makes it easier for me to experience a loving and personal relationship. Often during my morning walks when I creating my day, I pray to the universe, the outer and inner, the physical and metaphysical universe. But sometimes, that's just too much for me to hold. That when I check in with Iggy, there are many different ways to check in and get a checkup from Iggy. Meditation, prayer, journaling, walking meditations, visualization, or inner spiritual journeys to Iggy home, are just a few that come readily to mind. The important thing to notice is that checking in with your inner guidance takes time. Oh, It does and have to be a lot of time, although you may find that you'll want to devote more time as you start to realize the benefits. For many people, simply setting aside 10 to 20 minutes each day is a great start. As you become more comfortable and as your relationship with Iggy grows, you may want to take him around with you. He lightweight and takes up no room, so it's easy to do. Then, as you go about your day, check in for some instant guidance. My wife recently related this story. She was running errands, one of which included filling the car with gas. As she was doing so, she noticed that in the dumpster of the gas station was what appeared to be some pressure-treated lumber that was still in good shape. Somebody could use those, she thought as she finished filling the gas and went to pay. But since she couldn't think of any use for the lumber, she left it there. Then, the next morning as she stood on our deck gazing at our garden area, she noticed the 2 strawberry patches around the older one. We had placed some treated lumber to set up a bed, but there was no lumber around the one we recently planted. Immediately, she was reminded of the lumber in the dumpster. Why, intuition, one of her names for Iggy, was trying to tell me to take the lumber, she recounted to me. Unfortunately, I am listening clearly enough. As she told me this story, it reminded me that one of the easiest and most effective ways to check in with Iggy is to ask questions. Noticing things in our lives like the lumber in the dumpster is a good start. The next step is to check in with Iggy like this: no, there are no accidents in the universe. I realized that someone could use this lumber. Who do I know that could use it? In what way might I use it? How else could this lumber be used for the highest good of all? Try it this week. Experience the joy of a life with Iggy. We all heard the saying, spiritual beings here to have a physical experience. And I believe this to be true. I also know that life on this physical plane offers us challenges as a way to grow and develop spiritually. In this section, we'll explore 5 of life's greatest challenges that also appear to be some of the most universal, and the role purpose plays in transforming them. Over the decades of striving to live my own life on purpose and in coaching many others to do the same, I discovered some life challenges that appear to be both significant and universal in nature. They are: work dissatisfaction. Do you go to work simply because you need to pay the bills, but your work doesn't feel meaningful or like a satisfying way to express your true nature? If so, you far from alone. Drifting through life. Are you simply drifting through life? Do you feel a little like the guy in the movie, Groundhog Day, where each day feels just like a repeat of the day before? We'll look at how to get out of the drift of such a life and into the universal flow where you actively co-creating your life with the divine. Overwhelm and clutter. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by your life? Is your inner and outer world filled with clutter? Are you constantly putting off the things and people that matter the most to you because your life feels like it's out of control? If so, it may be time to step off the hamster wheel and begin to unclutter and simplify. Money and financial issues. Worrying about money appears to be a national, even an international pastime, more popular and widespread than soccer. Do you find yourself in arguments with yourself and your loved ones around money issues and worries? Does it feel like no matter how much you work you can never get ahead? It may be time to step into a new world of purposeful prosperity. Relationship challenges. While our relationships with each other are so important to a fulfilling life, these same relationships can be some of our greatest challenges. Do you feel like your relationships are more stressful than nurturing or nourishing? What does it take to create relationships that allow each person to express their own true, spiritual nature? What if there was one primary thing you could bring to your life, the presence of which would make a profound and positive difference with all 5 of these challenges? Is it possible for there to be such a panacea? Yes. Want to know what it is? Well, you probably already guessed. But in case you haven't, the purposeful panacea is clarity of purpose. Are you saying to yourself, you mean to tell me that knowing my true purpose in life can really solve all these big problems? Come on, I don't believe you. Stay tuned. I've seen it time and time again, both in my own life and with my clients. In fact, I'll go even further. Without some degree of clarity around your true life purpose, most people don't stand a chance with problems of this magnitude. Certainly, these are not the only issues that arise. However, they do seem to take up a tremendous amount of our collective time, energy, and effort in resolving them. It is my hope and intention that from this exploration, you will see how important it is to do the work to clarify and live true to your life purpose, and that you will be inspired to action. We'll be working with 2 important sets of distinctions that we already explored in some depth in this book, and that we all now apply to these 5 life challenges. Those distinctions are: 1. How we think of what a life purpose is. I'm suggesting that your life purpose isn't what you do. It is, instead, the context, vessel, or container into which you pour your life. In other words, your life purpose is a powerful force that shapes your life and all that you do. As I.e. said throughout this book, your divinely inspired life purpose is who you are as a spiritual being and what you came here to be and to experience. 2. The second powerful distinction is to consider that we all have 2 powerful forces that can shape our lives. The first one is your true, divinely inspired life purpose that is based in and arises from the attractive force of universal love, which also equates to your relationship with God or a higher power, or your spiritual nature. The other force is based in fear, lack, and a need to struggle to survive, and is called the inherited purpose because it arises in our early formative years, and often feels like it's something we inherited. Now, with these 2 sets of distinctions in mind, let's look at the first life challenge. Have you noticed lately how many people are dissatisfied with the work they do? Are you one of them? Even though we are working harder and longer hours, many people are enjoying their work far less. In a USA Today poll, 50% of American workers are unhappy at work, and the numbers are as high as 66% in New England and are steadily growing nationwide. According to the Associated Press, workers are growing more unhappy with their jobs in many parts of the country. A survey of 5,000 people found that while most Americans continue to find their jobs interesting and are even satisfied with their commutes, a bare majority like their jobs. Only 51% were satisfied with their jobs, compared with 59% in 1995, the survey revealed. The group found a similar level of job dissatisfaction in a study from the year 2000. I don't believe it's necessary for people to spend 8 to 10 hours or more per day doing something that only creates distress and dissatisfaction. I also feel that one of the key ingredients missing is that people aren't clear about their life purpose, and so they don't know how to design a job that is a match for their true purpose in life. I have found from personal experience and from working with many other people, both Life on Purpose clients and students in our Coaches Development Program, that when people start by first clarifying their life purpose, they are then able to attract, find, create, or design work that is a match for who they are and why they are here on planet Earth. This is what I refer to as turning your calling into your career. As Frederick Buechner says, "Here our deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet, there you will find a further call." Unfortunately, a significant cause of work dissatisfaction is because many of us have allowed our work decisions to be shaped by our inherited purpose, by fear, lack, and struggle. So, many people have taken jobs that are consistent with their inherited purpose. The work pays the bills but starves the soul. We've had the cart before the horse, trying to figure out what to do before first becoming clear who we are, what our true life purpose is. It is possible to put the horse and the cart in the right order. This is what you begin to do when you clarify what has been shaping your life and then clarify your true life purpose. When you've completed the process, one of 3 things most often occurs. 1. You allow your true purpose to shape your present work by putting what you do into the context of your purpose. Yes, I know for those of you reading this who really hate your job right now, this may sound impossible, but it's not. While it can be a challenge at first, many people find it to be a truly transformational experience. The other option is 2. You begin to design work that is a full expression of your true life purpose. 3. A combination of the 2 occurs. When this happens, your work becomes a significant way that you express your divinely inspired life purpose. Your career becomes a clear expression of your life purpose. Your calling is your career because your career is being shaped by your purpose. The powerful benefits of purposeful living. Imagine with me for a moment what would be possible regarding your work and your level of satisfaction or dissatisfaction at work if you could bring the following to bear: renewed focus, access to a wellspring of passion, being unstoppable, greater fulfillment, living a value-based life, expanded levels of fun, integrity, deeper trust and faith, being present to grace-filled life, being in the flow of the universe. Well, listen, far more is available when you're crystal clear about your life purpose. These are the top benefits that people have shared with me that they've received out of clarifying their life purpose. On hold, on purpose, or on rails? Is your life on hold, on purpose, or on rails? In this next section we'll expand our toolbox of distinctions and explore each of these. To start, here a brief overview. On hold, adrift, with little or no purposeful action or results. Often you feel like a cork in the sea of life, being buffeted around by the currents of circumstances. On purpose, engaged in life with purposeful, focused action and plenty of results that are a reflection of your true purpose. On rails, adrenaline junkie, often with frenetic action that is often motivated by fear and or lack and results in undue effort and struggle that lead to only occasional results, often without any significant sense of accomplishment or fulfillment. First, let's explore being and hold in life. Then we'll examine the phenomenon of a life en rails, also known as this all their eyes syndrome. Drifting through life often feels like one day is pretty much like the one before, and the one before that, and the one before that. And on top of that, each day feels like there's something missing. Your routines have taken over most, if not all, of your life, and you're simply going through the motions, without any real sense of satisfaction, fulfillment, or even real challenge. Of course, this may not be the case in all of your life, or it may be perhaps you're simply drifting at work, or in your significant relationship, or you're drifting when it comes to your health and well-being. The problem is that such driftiness often begins to invade other parts of your life, and before you know it, you're stuck in the this all their eyes syndrome. The transformational power of purpose. Helen Keller once said, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing." When we allow our fear-based inherited purpose to shape our lives, we often get the nothing rather than the daring adventure. You see, the inherited purpose's job is to keep us safe and secure. Unfortunately, in the process it also keeps us small. Here's Helen's full quote: "Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is not safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all." When we're willing to allow our lives to be shaped by our true, divinely inspired life purpose, the illusion of needing to play it safe and secure disappears in the face of a much larger possibility for living, and the daring adventure begins. What is your daring adventure? An integral part of the Life on Purpose mission is to enhance people's lives through purpose, so that rather than simply drifting through life, you inspire yourself to live a full, perhaps even an outrageous, audacious life, one that is shaped by, and a reflection of, your true purpose. Of course, it helps to know with as much clarity as possible what that purpose is, and while you can use the trial and error approach to gaining that clarity, this method often takes decades if not lifetimes to work. But what if you could cut that time frame down to just a matter of a few weeks or months, depending on your level of commitment and the amount of time you devoted to it? That is why, as part of our 10-year birthday as a spiritually based enterprise, we created the Life on Purpose community, so we could reach more people with a proven, systematic, spiritually based, and practical process that really does cut decades off the process of clarifying your life purpose. Are you ready to stop drifting through life? You've probably heard the old saying, life is not a dress rehearsal. This is the real thing, so why waste another day just drifting through life? For some of you reading this book, you know it's time to take action, to stop doing the same thing over and over, expecting and hoping for different results. I recently had a client ask me, "Do you have anything for when I get so busy that I don't really have time to do my morning purpose practice? Is there anything I can quickly listen to that will keep me on purpose?" Wow, what a great question, I thought, as immediately two different approaches came to mind as to how to answer it. On the one hand, I heard one of my satisfied clients asking for a new product, some tape or CD that could help her stay the course when her life starts to spin out of control. On the other hand, I heard the refrain of the old song, "Slow Down, You Move Too Fast," by one of my favorite singing duos of the 60s, Simon and Garfunkel. If you want to know two of the key steps most people in our Western culture need to take to begin to live their life on purpose, they are these. 1. Slow down. 2. Simplify your life and lifestyle. Now, some of you may have just quit reading this book. We often just don't want to hear the truth in such plain English. You may be so caught up in an overwhelming lifestyle that even though you taken the time to buy this book, you may not see a clear way to take the actions that are recommended in the chapters. What a dilemma, right? But remember the punchline to the old riddle, "Oh, do you eat an elephant?" Answer one bite at a time. So, take the first bit of slowing down right now. For just 1 minute, stop reading, and look around. Take a couple of deep breaths, feel your body, enjoy your surroundings, Relax your shoulders. Do it now. Indulge yourself for just a minute and allow yourself to be you without doing anything other than being present. Did you do it? Or perhaps I should say, did you be it? How was it? Was it as good for you as it was for, well, never mind. The point is many people in our Western culture are running on hyperdrive, doing so much, and so fast that they've lost the point to life. Is it time for you to slow down and simplify your life? It could be the first and most vitally important step you can take towards living a life on purpose. So, like the Nike commercials used to say, just do it, except in this case, it's just don't do it, least not so much and so fast. Okay. Care to take some of these ideas and apply them to your life? Ponder upon these questions. Where in your life are you operating in hyperdrive? Don't say everywhere. That's too easy and too vague. List the areas as specifically as possible, then take one of them and answer this question. What could you do this next week to slow down and simplify that area of your life? As you take the actions from above, which will probably be more inaction, see if you can get a sense of what in this area has been driving you to such a frenetic pace. Getting to the source of what's driving you can go a long way in providing guidance in a course correction. Consider this, for many of us, we've built a wall of meaning that's based in lack and limitation, and many of us hit this wall, hard and often, like a bug smacking the windshield of a car going 90 miles per hour. Splat. Unfortunately, we may not realize that we unconsciously build the wall. Instead, we may think it just the way life is. Of course, the wall of lack and limitation is made of the same basic components as the inherited purpose: old thoughts, emotions and feelings based in lack and a sense of scarcity. Here are some of the ways hitting the wall of lack and limitations often sounds. Can really be and express my life purpose until I have more money. Impossible for me to live true to my life purpose and make enough money to pay my bills. Don't have time to take on any purpose projects. I too busy just trying to stay afloat. Not smart enough, old enough, young enough, confident enough, or a number of other odd enoughs to live true to my life purpose. For most people, the wall of lack and limitations is composed of four main parts. Not enough money, which also includes not enough other material things. I use the technical coaching term of tough. Not enough time, not enough talent, skills, knowledge, experience, or expertise. Not enough self, as in not good enough, smart enough, confident enough. The knots. Take a couple of minutes to capture some of the specific thoughts and feelings that make up your wall of lack and limitation. Coaching tip. One of the common occurrences that can lead to your smacking against your wall of lack and limitations is when you commit to the next leg of your journey along the purposeful path, whether that is to bring real clarity of purpose to your life, or to expand your ability to live consistent with your purpose. The larger the possibility you create for yourself, the harder you can hit the wall. That's why, if you are someone with big dreams and visions, it's particularly important for you to be aware of your wall of lack and limitations, and to take the necessary steps to dismantle it. Otherwise, you are likely to find yourself splattered against the wall time after time as you attempt to bring those dreams and visions into reality. For more on how to dismantle the wall of lack and limitation that then creates an opening for purposeful prosperity to pour forth, go to www.lifeonpurpose.com/prosperity. There you will learn more about the Purposeful Prosperity online program. Let's start by defining what a purposeful partner is. It's someone who shares your core values, is interested in taking part in your vision for what's possible, and who complements the essence of who you are. This doesn't mean that they are exactly like you or that their interests must completely match your own. The visual metaphor I often use is to think of each individual as a circle. If we have no common interests, or shared values, there is no overlap of the circles. The more we share, the more overlap, and it's the overlapping interests, values, and commitments that can form the foundation of a purposeful partner relationship. And yet, it's those qualities, talents, and abilities that lie outside the overlap that often give spice to the relationship and that make a particularly powerful partnership. Start with what you know. If you're interested in attracting a purposeful partner or turning a current relationship into a purposeful partnership, start by identifying the following. Your core values. What are the intangibles that matter the most to you, those that you'd be willing to invest some of your life energy into to have them be more present in your life and in the world? Is it justice, integrity, love of family, unity, simplicity, passion, purpose, etc.? Your vision for what's possible. This often means getting back in touch with that sense of awe, wonder, and possibility that we had in our childhood years. This remembering process is key to living on purpose and attracting or developing a purposeful partnership. Knowing yourself, Socrates had it right. Knowing who you are at the core of your being and soul is an important ingredient as well. These are the qualities and attributes that you bring to the game of life, that both make you who you are and influence your contribution to the world. Purposeful partnerships work with the universal law of attraction, which makes sense given it's a universal law. The more we know our core values, our vision, and who we are, the easier it is to attract a person or people who are compatible and congruent with ourselves. A couple of operating principles. While two people probably won't have exactly the same commitments in life, a powerful operating principle is to be willing to commit to each other's commitments. Of course, with that principle in place, it forces both parties to become clear about what a true commitment is, versus just a whim or want. A second powerful operating principle is that anything and everything can be resolved through communication. Anything and everything. Right now, as I write this, Anne and I are out of sorts with each other. I said some things that didn't sit well with her last night and that she felt showed a lack of compassion on my part, while I felt she had been turning herself into a victim about a matter between Amber, our daughter, and her. It has not yet been completely resolved or healed, yet I know that it, along with anything else that comes up in our relationship, can and will be resolved through communication. So, if something, like this disagreement last night, hasn't been resolved, I know that true, authentic communication is missing. Oh, there may have been a lot of talking, but that doesn't always equal true, authentic communication. And it's my intention that it be fully resolved before we go to bed tonight. From insight to action. So, what insight or insights have you gleaned? What action will you take this week to begin to integrate the insight into your life? See if a few of these coaching questions will help. What are your core values? See if you can identify 3-6 of them. What is your vision for life? Who are you at the essence of your soul? If you're interested in attracting a purposeful partner, who you can share with this week about your values, vision, and who you are, sending out these powerful attractors is an important step in the attraction process. If you're interested in developing a current relationship into a purposeful partnership, with whom will it be? When will you share more about your core values, vision, and who you are with that person? Together we can create a world on purpose. For over 17 years my wife, Anne, and I have had a vision that has directed our actions here at Life on Purpose Institute. Simply put, it to be a catalyst for creating a world on purpose. We are honored every time someone chooses to start their own journey along the purposeful path. We believe that each time a person becomes clear about their divinely inspired life purpose, our vision has come just a little closer to being realized. That's why we so enjoy hearing from those who are on this journey with us. You can do this either by visiting our website at www.lifeonpurpose.com and leaving us a message there, or by emailing us directly at admin@lifeonpurpose.com. Who else do you know who would enjoy and benefit from a spiral of fulfillment? Why not share this book with them? If you use Facebook or Twitter, use On Purpose. Last of all, please take a few minutes in the next couple of days to write a review of this book on Amazon using this link: http://www.amzn.com/BOO5GOJKB. It DOES and have to be long. Every review is one more step towards creating a world on purpose. Since founding Life on Purpose Institute, Incorporated in 1996, Dr. Brad Swift has become one of the country's foremost authorities on personal life purpose. He is the author of Life on Purpose, 6 Passages to an Inspired Life, an award-winning finalist in the Self-Help Motivational Division of the Best Books 2007 Awards, sponsored by USA News. It's the first and only how-to book that guides people from confusion to clarity about the most important question: who am I and why am I here? To learn how on or off purpose your life is, take the fun and engaging self-test at www.lifeonpurpose.com/SELFTEST. To learn more about additional books by the author, go to www.lifeonpurpose.com/books and www.lifeonpurpose.com/AMAZONPAGE. Porpoise Publishing, Flat Rock, North Carolina 28731. www.lifeonpurpose.com. Library of Congress Cataloging and Publication Data. Swift, W. Bradford. Spiral of Fulfillment, Living an Inspired Life of Service, Simplicity and Spiritual Serenity / W. Bradford Swift PCM ISBN 13-978-1,453,853,634 Softcover ISBN 10-1,453,853,634 1. Spirituality 2. Purposeful Living 3. Self-Help 4. Personal Development. Copyright 2011. W. Bradford Swift. All rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopy, recording or otherwise, without prior written permission from Life on Purpose Institute, Incorporated / Porpoise Publishing, with the exception of short excerpts used with acknowledgement of publisher and author. Cover photo by Vicky Brago Mitchell. Author photo by B.J. Condry. Typesetting by N.T. Swift. Edited by Caroline L. Myroslik. Typeset in Book Antiqua. Printed in USA. First edition.